Good evening. Tonight's broadcast concerns a matter both improbable and uncomfortably familiar. There are, to our knowledge, no laboratories conducting unsanctioned viral research, no aircraft quietly diverting with infected passengers aboard, and no small town where the coughing next door marks the beginning of humanity's undoing. The voices you are about to hear were created by artificial intelligence. The story, however, was conceived and written by human hands. It is fiction, though it may sound unsettlingly like the nightly news. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or deceased, is entirely coincidental. So now, with your volume adjusted and the hour growing late, I invite you to listen carefully, and remember, when you wake tomorrow, that tickle in your throat is probably nothing. Enjoy the show.
You ever notice how quiet it gets before something big happens? Like that calm hum on the power lines before a storm hits? That's what this feels like. There's something happening in China right now, and they're not telling us the truth. Whole neighborhoods sealed off, train stations closed, cell service cut. And the official story? Seasonal flu. Yeah, sure, because seasonal flu always needs riot police and hazmat teams, right? I've been following this since the first clip leaked on social media. That hospital hallway video with the patients lined up on the floor. The one that disappeared 2 hours later. Every account that posted it got deleted. You don't just delete something like that unless you've got something to hide. The people who live there are terrified to talk. I've got emails, can't say from who, saying this thing spreads faster than anything they've seen. Faster than SARS, faster than MERS. And the mortality numbers they're reporting, double them. And you're probably still not close. The World Health Organization says they're monitoring the situation. You know what that means? It means they're already weeks behind. It means the flights are still coming in. It means by the time they tell us to worry, it'll already be here. And look, I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm trying to tell you the truth before the signal goes dark. Because when they start shutting down travel, when they start saying just stay calm, that's when you know it's too late. Stock food, water, whatever medicine you can get your hands on. Stay out of crowds. Don't believe the official line. They'll call it a flu. They'll say it's under control. But mark my words, this isn't any flu we've ever seen before. And if I'm right, and I pray I'm not, this is just the beginning.
Good evening. We begin tonight with developing news from overseas, where officials in China are responding to what they describe as an unusual outbreak of respiratory illness. Early reports indicate dozens of hospitalizations in the city of Guangzhou, though local authorities insist the situation is contained and under control. The illness, which presents with high fever and severe pneumonia, has been identified as a previously unknown strain of influenza. Health experts are calling it a variant of concern, though they emphasize there is no immediate danger to the public here at home. Flights from China continue to operate normally, and federal health agencies say they are monitoring the situation closely. We've been here before, at least in part. A novel strain, conflicting information, and the familiar question, how serious is it really? Health officials are urging calm, but comparisons to COVID-19 are spreading faster than the virus itself. We go now to our medical correspondent, Miranda Carl, live outside St. Mary's Hospital downtown.
Billy, the mood here tonight is calm but alert. St. Mary's has activated what's known as Tier 1 readiness, meaning staff are checking travel histories for anyone showing respiratory symptoms, even mild ones. Behind me, you can see hospital security has cordoned off part of the emergency drive to manage incoming patients, and nurses have begun wearing surgical masks in all public-facing areas. I spoke earlier with an administrator who confirmed they've received several calls from worried residents asking whether this new flu could reach the United States. Her response was simple: eventually everything does. For now, the hospital hasn't seen any suspected cases, but they are working with the local health department to review testing procedures just in case. There's also been a noticeable uptick in pharmacy traffic nearby, mostly people buying basic supplies like thermometers, fever reducers, and over-the-counter cold medicine. It's not panic, just precaution. One pharmacist told me she sold out of surgical masks for the first time since last winter. It's a small reminder that when people hear the word outbreak, they listen. I also checked in with flight arrivals at the regional airport this evening. Customs officers there tell me they've begun screening passengers from certain international flights. Temperature checks, quick interviews, nothing invasive, but more than usual. It's a step they say is mostly symbolic, a reassurance to the public that officials are taking this seriously. As of tonight, there have been no confirmed cases in this country and no change to travel guidance. Still, the tone among hospital staff is one of quiet vigilance. Better to be ready, one doctor told me, than to be surprised. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Miranda. Joining us now is Dr. Arthur Leander, Director of the Midwestern Regional Health Authority, who's been coordinating with federal agencies monitoring the outbreak. Dr. Leander, can you clarify what we're dealing with here? Is this just another seasonal flu or something more unusual?
At this point, Billy, all indications suggest this is a strain of influenza. Yes, one with some unfamiliar characteristics, but still within the family of viruses we know how to track and manage. The genetic sequence, from what we've seen, shares similarities with earlier avian influenza strains that appeared in Asia about a decade ago. That might sound alarming, but remember, many flu strains originate in birds or animals before adapting to humans. It doesn't automatically mean it's more dangerous. Right now, the priority is surveillance and containment. China has implemented travel restrictions in affected areas, and our CDC is working to identify any travelers who may have been exposed. These are standard measures. The public should continue normal routines, go to work, send children to school while staying informed through official channels.
We've seen a few viral clips circulating online, videos claiming to show overcrowded hospitals overseas. Should viewers believe those images?
Caution is always advised when it comes to unverified footage. Outbreaks often attract misinformation faster than they spread disease. What we can confirm is that local hospitals in southern China are under pressure, but that doesn't mean collapse. Social media tends to amplify the worst moments. For context, even a modest increase in flu admissions can strain a system temporarily. The best thing people can do right now is prepare the way they would for any severe flu season. Get vaccinated, wash hands frequently, and stay home if they're ill. Those small actions, multiplied across millions of people, make a huge difference.
Doctor, are we confident this remains confined overseas?
We have no evidence of domestic transmission. The CDC's tracking system is active, and ports of entry are alert for symptomatic travelers. If a case were detected here, it would be isolated immediately. I want to stress this is not a cause for panic. It's a reason to be prudent.
Dr. Leander, appreciate your clarity tonight. For viewers just joining us, officials in China are investigating a cluster of pneumonia-like illness linked to a new influenza strain. U.S. health authorities are monitoring the situation and hospitals are taking early precautions. But there is no indication of local spread. Here at home, it's flu season, nothing more, nothing less. Still, history teaches us that vigilance matters. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops and bring you updates as they come in. For now, from all of us here at WXRT Evening News, stay well and good night.
Tonight I want to speak from the heart. Many of you have seen the stories, people falling ill in distant cities, hospitals filling with the sounds of fear and confusion. It's natural to feel anxious when we hear such things, but before we allow fear to take hold, I ask that we take a moment to remember who we are and whose hands hold this world. Our Lord Jesus walked among the sick and the broken. He touched the untouchable, comforted the grieving, and restored hope where none remained. He did not turn away from suffering, he stepped into it. When he heard the cries of the leper, he didn't keep his distance. He reached out, placed his hand upon the man's shoulder and said, "Be clean." That same compassion, that same healing power is still alive in him tonight. Across the sea, in crowded rooms lit by flickering bulbs, there are men and women doing everything they can to ease the suffering of strangers. Some haven't been home in days, some will fall ill themselves, and yet they continue because love drives them, and love, as Christ taught us, is the one power that never fails. Let us pray for them, for the doctors who refuse to rest, for the nurses who whisper prayers as they hold trembling hands, for the children lying awake wondering why their parents aren't home tonight. May the Spirit of the Lord strengthen them, sustain them, and give them the courage to keep going. We pray for those who are sick, not just for healing of the body, but for peace of the soul. We pray for their families who wait outside hospital doors, hoping for good news, clinging to faith when science has no answer. Lord, give them comfort. Surround them with your presence. Remind them that even in the valley of the shadow, you walk beside them. And we pray for ourselves, that our hearts would not harden to the pain of others. It's easy in the safety of our homes to change the channel, to look away, to tell ourselves it's not our problem. But Scripture tells us otherwise. When one member suffers, all suffer with it. We are bound together, not by borders or language, but by the image of God that lives in each of us. So we lift up our voices as one, not in panic, not in despair, but in faith. Because faith reminds us that darkness never gets the final word. It didn't on Calvary, and it won't tonight. Jesus still reigns. His mercy endures forever. Lord Jesus, hear our prayer. Stretch out your healing hand over the sick and the frightened. Guide the minds of scientists and doctors as they search for answers. Bless the hands of every nurse, every technician, every caregiver who serves with quiet courage. Give wisdom to leaders making decisions that affect millions of lives, and teach us, each of us, to be instruments of your peace. Remind us that love is stronger than fear, that faith is stronger than doubt, and that you, our Savior, are stronger than any sickness that walks this earth. And for all who are listening tonight, if you are worried, if your heart is heavy, if you find yourself wondering what tomorrow will bring, remember this: you are not forgotten. You are loved by a God who knows every hair on your head, every tear you've ever shed, and every prayer you've ever whispered in the dark. Let us close together in faith. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. And where there is sickness, healing. May Christ hold the sick in his hands. May he give rest to the weary. And may his light shine over every corner of this troubled world. In his holy name we pray. Amen.
We're interrupting regular programming to bring you a statement from the National Institutes of Health. The agency's director is addressing growing reports of a new influenza strain spreading across several regions. The statement is being carried live from Washington, D.C. We go now to the NIH director.
Good evening. I know many of you have seen the recent reports of a respiratory illness spreading in parts of southern China. The images online and the headlines may sound concerning, but I want to speak directly tonight to provide context, clarity, and some perspective. What we are observing appears to be a localized outbreak of influenza, a variant of a virus that we encounter in one form or another nearly every year. It is not the first time a new strain has appeared overseas, and it will not be the last. These events are a normal part of global viral evolution. Most of the time, they are contained quickly, and life continues without disruption. Our National Institutes of Health, together with the Centers for Disease Control, are working around the clock to collect accurate data and verify reports from the affected regions. We are in constant contact with our international partners, including the World Health Organization and several independent research laboratories that are sequencing the virus right now. Early findings indicate this is a member of the influenza A family, genetically similar to strains already circulating in the human population. There is currently no evidence to suggest that it is more severe or more transmissible than what we routinely encounter during a typical flu season. Enhanced screening is already in place at major airports for passengers arriving from affected areas. This is a precaution, not an emergency measure. Travelers who exhibit symptoms such as fever or cough will be referred for additional testing and observation, while the vast majority will continue on their way without incident. These protocols are well established and have been used effectively in the past to identify and isolate potential cases before they pose a wider risk. Now, I know that in moments like this, rumors can spread faster than the facts. Social media, in particular, tends to amplify anxiety before the science is clear. That is why I want to emphasize the importance of relying on credible information. Please, do not take medical advice from unofficial sources or viral videos. Listen to your local health departments, to your physicians, and to established news organizations that verify their information before publishing. Here are the facts as we know them. There are currently no confirmed cases of this influenza variant within the United States. There is no evidence of sustained transmission outside the affected region, and there is no reason at this time to alter your daily routines. That said, the same practices that protect against seasonal flu remain the best defense against any respiratory virus. Wash your hands frequently, avoid close contact with people who are sick, and if you develop symptoms, stay home and contact your healthcare provider. These simple actions are remarkably effective in slowing the spread of illness. Our scientific community is already taking the proactive step of preparing a candidate vaccine, which can be adapted rapidly if needed. This is not unusual. We maintain a standing capability to develop influenza vaccines in partnership with private laboratories. If further research suggests this virus poses a greater risk than currently believed, we are ready to respond. I want to acknowledge the dedication of the many researchers, clinicians, and public health workers already engaged in this effort. Their vigilance ensures that even when new pathogens appear, our systems respond swiftly and effectively. I also want to thank the public for staying calm, staying informed, and doing your part to keep our communities healthy. To repeat, there is no cause for alarm. The situation is under control. The risk to Americans remains low, and we will continue to share accurate, evidence-based information as this investigation continues. We've dealt with new influenza strains before, and we'll deal with this one as well. We have the science, the infrastructure, and the people to meet this challenge head on. We've trained for it, we've built for it, and we are prepared. This is what public health is designed to do, to protect you before you even realize there's something to be protected from. So tonight, I simply ask that you take a deep breath, follow normal precautions, and trust that the system you fund and support is doing its job. We have this well in hand. Thank you.
That was the director of the National Institutes of Health speaking earlier this evening, outlining the government's initial response to the emerging influenza strain overseas. The director emphasized that there is no evidence of domestic transmission and that the risk to the American public remains low. Federal agencies, including the Centers for Disease Control and the Department of Homeland Security, are said to be coordinating closely with international partners as additional data becomes available. While tonight's address described the situation as routine, some health officials have acknowledged that information from the affected regions remains limited. They stress that more time and testing will be needed to determine whether this new virus behaves like a typical seasonal flu or represents something different. In the meantime, hospitals across the country continue to review their preparedness plans, and several airlines have begun screening passengers arriving from Asia as a precaution. There are still no confirmed cases here at home, but the public is urged to follow standard flu season precautions, wash hands frequently, stay home when sick, and seek medical care if symptoms persist. Public reaction so far has been largely subdued. Pharmacies in some cities report modest increases in demand for over-the-counter medicine, and social media chatter continues to circulate unverified claims about the scale of the outbreak abroad. Health experts advise relying on official sources for updates and avoiding speculation until more is known. It's too early to know how this story will unfold, but for now the tone from Washington remains one of cautious confidence. Officials insist the situation is under control and say they will continue to brief the public as new information emerges. You're watching WXRT Evening News. We'll continue to monitor developments throughout the week. Stay with us. Good evening. We begin tonight with new developments in the ongoing flu outbreak, first identified overseas. Health officials now confirm that the virus has spread to several countries across Europe and the Pacific, with isolated cases detected here in the United States. The Centers for Disease Control says the affected patients are all travelers who recently returned from Asia, and that all are receiving medical care under isolation protocols. Federal health authorities emphasize that these cases were expected, and that the system is working exactly as designed. But tonight, hospitals and urgent care centers across the country are reporting unusually high numbers of people seeking testing for flu-like symptoms. And in some cities, long lines have formed outside clinics and pharmacies. While officials continue to insist that the situation is manageable, there is growing concern among frontline staff about the speed with which the illness appears to be moving. We go now to our medical correspondent, Miranda Carroll, who joins us live from an urgent care facility on the north side.
Billy, this is one of 5 clinics in the city now offering extended hours to handle the surge in patients seeking testing or treatment. Inside, the waiting room is at capacity, and staff have begun triaging people outdoors under temporary tents. It's an orderly scene, but clearly a system under strain. Nurses here tell me they've seen a sharp increase in patients reporting high fevers and shortness of breath, not all of whom have traveled abroad. That's what's causing some concern tonight. Hospital administrators are quick to point out that it's still peak flu season and that the majority of those symptoms are likely unrelated. Still, doctors are being told to test broadly, especially for anyone with recent international travel or known exposure. I spoke with one physician who said they've never seen so many people wearing masks in the waiting room. It feels like last time, he said quietly, though he didn't explain what last time meant. Just behind me, you can see a steady stream of people arriving, parents with children, elderly couples, young adults who left work early to get checked. Everyone is polite, everyone is patient, but there's an unmistakable tension in the air. Several pharmacies nearby are reporting shortages of fever reducers and surgical masks, and at least one has posted a handwritten sign reading, "Limit 2 per customer." Officials continue to say there's no cause for alarm, but the reality here feels different. No one is panicking, but people are paying attention now. Back to you, Billy.
Thank you, Miranda. Joining us tonight is Dr. Sam Daniels, an infectious disease specialist who's been advising regional hospitals on containment protocols. Doctor, what do we know about this virus at this point, and what separates it from the ordinary seasonal flu?
Well, Billy, what we're looking at appears to be a highly aggressive influenza strain with a very short incubation period, meaning symptoms develop faster than what we typically see. The data we've received so far suggests the virus spreads primarily through respiratory droplets, which is consistent with most flu viruses. The concern is that preliminary models indicate a higher rate of transmission, what we call the R0, though those numbers are still being refined. Now, in plain terms, that means it may take fewer exposures to infect someone, especially in crowded environments like public transit, schools, or large workplaces. That doesn't make it unstoppable. It just means we have to take standard precautions seriously. Hand washing, distancing when possible, wearing a mask if you're sick, those things work. They always have.
Doctor, We've heard comparisons to previous pandemics. Some people online are already calling this the next big one. Is that fair?
It's far too early to use language like that. The reality is, we don't yet know how severe this will become. There are still only a small number of confirmed cases here at home, and we have robust systems in place to track and contain them. The worst thing people can do right now is assume the sky is falling. Fear spreads faster than any virus, and panic never helps. That said, vigilance is important. We're advising hospitals to review surge capacity plans, ensure protective gear is stocked, and remind staff to monitor for clusters of severe illness. But these are prudent steps, not signs of crisis.
And what about vaccines? Is there one in development yet?
The NIH and several private companies have already begun designing candidate vaccines. Modern sequencing technology allows us to develop those models quickly, but testing and approval take time. In the meantime, our best defense remains good hygiene and common sense. We also need to be mindful of misinformation. I've seen a lot of claims circulating online, miracle cures, conspiracy theories, or outright denial that the virus even exists. Those distractions cost lives. The science will catch up, but the truth must come first.
Dr. Daniels, thank you. Before we close, I want to leave our viewers with a brief summary. Tonight, confirmed cases of the new influenza strain have been reported in multiple countries, with a handful here in the United States. Health officials continue to emphasize preparedness and calm, but hospitals are beginning to feel early pressure. Public confidence is wavering. After COVID, many people learn to question official numbers, and that skepticism is shaping how this crisis unfolds. Some still believe it's being exaggerated. Others think it's already far worse. If you're watching this at home, it's important to remember that caution is not fear. Following public health advice isn't overreaction, it's responsibility. Wash your hands, avoid unnecessary travel, and stay home if you're feeling unwell. Officials say this will pass, as outbreaks have before, but the story of how it passes, that's still being written. We'll continue to bring you the facts as they emerge. For WXRT News, I'm Billy Ford. Stay safe and good night. We're interrupting regular programming for a live update from the National Institutes of Health. The director is set to address the rise in confirmed cases and new guidance for the public. We take you now to Washington for the NIH briefing.
Good evening. I want to begin tonight by confirming that several cases of the novel influenza virus identified last week overseas have now been detected here in the United States. This development was expected, and our national response framework is operating as planned. The affected individuals are currently receiving care under isolation, and all known contacts have been identified and placed under monitoring. At this time, there is no indication of widespread community transmission. We understand the comparisons to COVID. That experience shaped how every agency in this country responds to a new outbreak. But what we're dealing with now moves differently, faster, more adaptive, less predictable. The lesson from COVID wasn't that we could stop every virus. It was that information saves lives. That's why transparency and public trust are our most critical tools right now. I understand that the growing number of international cases has caused understandable concern. Let me assure you, the United States is well prepared to respond to outbreaks of this kind. We've invested for years in systems designed specifically for moments like this: early detection, rapid testing, and coordinated containment. Our public health infrastructure is robust, and it is functioning exactly as it should. We are, however, entering an important phase. Containment works best when the public participates. That means taking simple, practical steps, washing hands frequently, avoiding close contact with people who are ill, and staying home from work or school if you develop symptoms. These actions, though small, can make an enormous difference in slowing the spread of infection. We are also advising people to reconsider non-essential travel, particularly to areas where transmission is known to be active. That is not a restriction, it's a recommendation. We want to minimize exposure opportunities while scientists and doctors continue their work to understand this virus more fully. There's been some confusion about how serious this illness is. The vast majority of patients continue to experience mild to moderate symptoms, fever, cough, fatigue, and most recover without hospitalization. A smaller percentage do develop complications, particularly those with underlying conditions. Our hospitals are prepared for that, and supplies of antiviral medications and protective equipment are being distributed nationwide. Behind the scenes, our teams are working tirelessly. Researchers at the NIH and partner institutions have already mapped the virus's genetic sequence, and vaccine development has begun. Laboratory studies are underway to better understand how the virus behaves, how it spreads, and how we can stop it. We're not waiting for the situation to worsen. We're acting now, decisively and collaboratively. That said, we need to be honest. This will not resolve overnight. There will be more cases in the coming days, possibly more hospitalizations. That is not failure. That is how containment looks in its early stages. We will track, isolate, and treat every patient we find. The goal is not to stop every infection immediately, but to slow the spread so our healthcare system can manage the load safely. Finally, I want to address the growing amount of misinformation circulating online. Rumors and speculation do not save lives, they endanger them. Please rely only on verified information from public health authorities. Do not give in to fear, and do not amplify unconfirmed claims. We are committed to transparency, and you will hear from us frequently as we learn more. We have faced challenges like this before, and each time we've come through stronger. I have complete confidence in our scientists, our healthcare workers, and in the American people's ability to stay calm, focused, and compassionate through adversity. We are managing this situation. We are prepared for what comes next, and together we will overcome it. Thank you, and good night.
You've been listening to the NIH director outlining expanded surveillance, limited public gatherings, and updated travel advisories. To recap, monitor symptoms, stay home if you're ill, and follow local health guidance as it's issued. We'll continue to track developments and bring you verified information as it comes in. This is WXRT News.
All right, welcome back to The Breakdown. I'm your host, Jimbo Scott, and tonight we're talking about something that's been showing up in everyone's feed for the last few weeks. This flu that started in China and seems to be popping up all over the place. Now, before you roll your eyes, I know it's flu season, we've all had it, and the media loves a good panic story. But I wanted to bring on someone who actually understands this stuff. My guest tonight is Robbie Keogh, public health specialist, former epidemic response coordinator. Robbie, good to have you on, man.
Hey, Jimbo. Thanks for having me. Always good to talk about viruses at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night.
Yeah, perfect time to start worrying. So let's start simple. What are we actually looking at here? Because depending on who you listen to, it's either nothing or the end of the world.
Right now, the best information we've got says it's an influenza variant, meaning, yeah, it's technically a kind of flu, but the thing that's got people like me paying attention is how fast it seems to spread. We're seeing confirmed cases jump continents in a matter of days. And that tells us this virus moves efficiently between people. That doesn't automatically make it catastrophic, but it does mean we're in uncharted territory in terms of speed.
So we're talking faster spread, but not necessarily deadlier?
That's the big question. The early numbers are messy, and frankly, I don't trust most of them yet. The fatality rate people are quoting online comes from incomplete data, mostly hospital patients, which means we're missing the mild cases that never make it in for testing. But even with those gaps, we're seeing signs that it's more severe than a typical seasonal flu.
How much more severe are we talking?
It's still early, but a normal flu has a fatality rate under 0.1%. This one might be closer to 1%, possibly higher in older adults. That sounds small until you remember how fast flu spreads. You infect enough people, and even a 1% rate starts to mean a lot of lives.
Yeah, it's a big number when you start doing the math. But I keep hearing people say, look, we've got the best medicine in the world. We can handle it. Are they right?
We've got incredible medical resources, but hospitals aren't built for millions of sick people at once. They're built for day-to-day operations, car crashes, surgeries, emergencies, not for a situation where half the staff is out sick and every bed is full. Once that threshold gets crossed, it's not about technology anymore. It's about capacity.
So this is about time slowing it down enough for the system to keep up?
Exactly. Flattening the curve. I know that term's getting thrown around already, but that's what it means, spreading infections out over time. So the system doesn't collapse. That's why you're hearing words like containment, mitigation, non-essential travel. They sound bureaucratic, but they're really just about buying time.
You know, hearing you say that takes me straight back to COVID. We all swore we'd learned our lesson from that one: stockpiles, early warning systems, the whole deal. But here we are again talking about curves and shortages. Makes you wonder if we actually learned anything.
COVID changed the world, but it didn't change our attention span. Once the masks came off, people moved on. Governments did too. You can't keep the public scared forever. They stop listening.
Yeah, and when people did speak up, half of them got flagged or banned for saying the wrong thing. Some of it was garbage, sure, but a lot of folks just wanted straight answers, where it came from, why we were being told one thing one week and another the next.
Right? The information war became almost as bad as the virus itself. There were good scientists trying to do their jobs, but politics, money, social media, all of it got tangled together. Once trust breaks, it doesn't come back easy.
And then came the vaccines. Fast, experimental, pushed on people who didn't trust the same institutions that made them. Some folks thought it was salvation, others thought it was control. No one could agree on what was true anymore.
Exactly. The truth got lost between the shouting. Every side was certain the other was lying, and that's what really stuck the doubt. Now here we are, 5 years later, and nobody believes anything until it's too late. We're better prepared than most countries, but I wouldn't say ready. Hospitals have plans, but supplies run out fast. Masks, gloves, antiviral medication, and a lot of the protective gear we use is manufactured overseas. If supply chains break down, things get complicated fast.
Yeah. I read somewhere that a lot of our medical stuff comes from the same region where this started.
Exactly. Antibiotics, base chemicals, even surgical masks. So it's all interconnected. You don't just have a virus problem, you have a logistics problem.
You've been in public health a long time. When you look at this, what's the part that keeps you up at night?
It's not the virus itself, it's the domino effect. Panic, misinformation, people turning against each other instead of working together. I've seen what fear does to communities. If people lose trust in institutions, they stop listening to advice that could save their lives. And when that happens, it's no longer just a health crisis, it's a social one.
You think that could happen here?
I hope not. But if I'm honest, I think we're more vulnerable than we like to admit. People forget how fragile the system is until it's tested.
You sound worried, Robbie.
I'm cautious. I've spent my career watching the same mistakes repeat. Early denial, slow response, too much faith in control. Viruses don't care about politics or borders. They don't wait for press conferences. They just move.
All right. That's not comforting. So what should regular people do right now? Someone listening in their car on the way home, what's their move?
Keep living your life. But be smart. Wash your hands like it actually matters, because it does. Stay home if you're sick. Check on elderly relatives. Stock some supplies, but don't hoard. And most importantly, pay attention. This could still go either way.
I've got to say, man, this is the first time in a long time I've done an episode where I actually feel unsettled by the end.
That's good. You should. Awareness is the first defense. Fear is fine as long as it moves you toward preparation, not panic.
Well, that's a sobering note to end on. Robbie Keogh, public health expert, thanks for taking the time, man.
Stay safe, Jimbo. Wash your hands.
You got it. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. If you're listening at home, take care of yourselves, check in on your people, and maybe skip the handshake tomorrow, just in case.
You hearing this, folks? You hearing what they're saying now? We got a few cases here in the States, but there's no cause for concern. No cause for concern. That's the phrase they always use right before everything goes sideways. That's what they said about the first Gulf spill, about the power grid failure, about every single thing they couldn't actually control. And now they're saying it again. While this so-called flu variant just happens to show up in half a dozen countries in under 2 weeks. Yeah, sure, totally normal. I told you last month, they were downplaying the numbers coming out of China. People said I was fear-mongering, that I was spreading misinformation. Well, guess what? The same reporters who called me crazy are now saying hospitals overseas are full and data's limited. Limited, meaning controlled, meaning someone somewhere is deciding how much you get to know. You ever notice how every time they hold a press conference, they use the same script? We're prepared. We're monitoring. We have this well in hand. You could line up 100 bureaucrats and they'd all sound identical. It's not because they agree. It's because they're reading word for word, line by line, from the same talking points memo. They call it consistent messaging. I call it damage control. Now they're saying avoid non-essential travel. You know what that means? It means it's already out. It means they can't stop it, but they can still make it look like they're in charge. You think they're going to tell you if containment fails? You think they'll announce, hey, folks, it's spreading uncontrollably. Good luck? Of course not. They'll keep smiling, keep reassuring, right up until the supply chains break and the store shelves are empty. Then they'll blame the public for panic buying. And let's talk about that word flu. They keep calling it a flu, not because it is, but because it sounds familiar. Flu doesn't scare people. Virus does. Pandemic does. So they soften it, round off the edges, make it sound manageable. That's how you control the narrative. You don't fix the problem, you rename it. I've got people writing in, doctors, nurses, airport staff, saying they've been told not to talk to the press, told to funnel everything through proper channels. What does that tell you? When truth becomes a controlled substance, it means something big is happening behind the curtain. And don't think this isn't connected to money. Pharmaceutical companies are already gearing up for rapid vaccine development. That phrase alone should make you pause. You don't rapidly make anything safe, not medicine. But if you control the patents, the production, and the panic, you control everything. Fear is profitable. Confusion is profitable. They're saying, we'll have vaccines soon. We'll distribute as needed. To who? You think they're going to start with the average guy standing in line at Walgreens? No, they'll start with government, military, corporate leadership, the people who already have bunkers with filtered air and backup generators. That's who gets saved first. Everyone else gets whatever's left, if there's anything left. And the press, the press loves this. They get to act serious again. Charts, graphs, breaking news banners, ratings through the roof. But they won't ask the real questions. They'll sit there nodding, pretending to hold power accountable while reading whatever script they're handed. You want the truth? The truth is simple. If something can spread that fast, that far, with that little warning, it's not just nature, it's negligence. Maybe it leaked, maybe it was a lab mistake, maybe it's a test. I don't know yet, but I'll tell you this, people in power knew more than they said, and they said less than they knew. So when you hear them talk about trusting the experts, remember that the experts work for someone. Remember that monitoring the situation is code for hoping it doesn't get worse before we figure out what to do. And remember that every second they spend telling you not to worry is a second they're buying for themselves. Wash your hands? Sure, but don't wash your brain. Don't swallow what they're feeding you, because this is just the beginning.
Good evening. What began as an isolated flu outbreak overseas has now entered a new and troubling phase. Health officials tonight confirmed that the virus has been detected in 43 countries, with confirmed clusters in several major U.S. cities. Hospitals in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles are reporting capacity strains. And in some regions, emergency rooms have begun turning away non-critical patients. Federal officials insist that containment measures remain effective, but the data tells a more complicated story. According to the latest figures from the CDC, confirmed cases have doubled in just the past 72 hours. The exact mortality rate is still being studied, but early indicators suggest it may be significantly higher than seasonal influenza. Across the country, state governments are declaring public health emergencies, authorizing the National Guard to assist with logistics and medical transport. Schools in several districts have temporarily closed, and large public events are being postponed or canceled. Airports remain open, but screenings have intensified, leading to long delays and widespread confusion. For many Americans, the question is no longer if the virus will reach them, but when. We go now to our field correspondent, Miranda Carroll, reporting from the emergency staging area outside County General Hospital.
Billy, what you're seeing behind me is the new triage extension built in the hospital parking lot earlier this week. It's a large white tent filled with cots, oxygen tanks, and rows of IV stands. They built it because the emergency department upstairs is full, completely full. Doctors here told me they're seeing between 400 and 500 patients a day, most of them presenting with the same symptoms: high fever, respiratory failure, rapid collapse. Just a few minutes ago, another ambulance pulled up, sirens blaring. It's been like that every 20 minutes all night. Nurses are moving from one patient to another with barely enough time to disinfect their hands. You can hear the sound of ventilators running, generators humming, people coughing. Some are crying quietly behind masks. The hospital spokesperson told me they've requested additional ventilators from the state stockpile, but haven't been told when they'll arrive. They're also short on protective gear, gowns, gloves, even basic surgical masks. One nurse described it as trying to fight a fire with a garden hose. Authorities insist these conditions are temporary, but to the people here, it doesn't feel temporary. Families are being told they can't visit loved ones inside, and many have gathered in the parking lot just to be close, sitting on the hoods of cars, holding each other, waiting for updates that may never come. I spoke to one woman earlier whose husband was admitted 3 days ago. She hasn't been allowed to see him since. She showed me a text he sent last night. "I can't breathe, but don't worry. They said it's just the flu." Those were his last words. Back to you, Billy.
Thank you, Miranda. For viewers just joining us, we're covering the continuing spread of the novel influenza virus now affecting most of the continental United States. Joining us live is Dr. Tom Cullen, Senior Epidemiologist with the National Virology Research Center. Dr. Cullen, you've been studying the genome of this virus. What can you tell us about how it behaves and why containment seems to be failing?
The short answer, Billy, is that this virus doesn't behave like influenza as we understand it. It mutates rapidly, faster than anything we've ever recorded in a human host. The initial assumption was that it would spread and fade like most seasonal strains. But the data we're seeing now suggests sustained transmission in every environment tested. Temperature, humidity, population density, none of it seems to matter. When you combine that with the short incubation period, sometimes less than 24 hours, from exposure to symptoms, you get exponential growth. Our models show the reproductive number, what we call the R0, may be as high as 6. That's multiple times higher than the average flu, and even higher than some of the worst viral outbreaks in modern history.
6? To clarify for our audience, that means each person could infect 6 others?
Exactly. And that's why containment measures that normally work are proving ineffective. By the time you identify a case, the person's contacts are already symptomatic. The virus moves faster than our infrastructure can track it. Now, there's another complication, and I want to be careful how I say this. We've found markers in the genome that suggest this virus may have adapted to human hosts unusually efficiently. That's not typical for something that originates in animals. It doesn't prove anything sinister, but it raises serious questions about where this came from and how long it's actually been circulating.
Doctor, that's a remarkable statement. Are you saying it may not be naturally occurring?
We can't confirm that. What I'm saying is that it's more complex than the public has been led to believe. What we're dealing with isn't just a bad flu season. It's something new. Something we don't fully understand yet.
How worried should people be tonight?
Worry doesn't help. Preparation does. People should start thinking practically, limit exposure, avoid unnecessary travel, stock essential supplies, and take care of vulnerable family members. We may be entering a period where hospitals can't meet every need, and local communities will have to depend on each other. This isn't the time for panic. It's the time for realism.
Dr. Cullen, thank you for your time. For weeks now, officials have assured the public that the situation was under control, that containment would hold. But tonight, the images we're seeing tell a different story. Hospitals overwhelmed, families separated, entire cities struggling to keep up. We've been told this is just another flu season. But for many watching right now, it already feels like something else, something far bigger. We'll continue to report as long as the airwaves stay clear. For WXRT News, I'm Billy Ford. Stay safe and take care of one another. We interrupt our regular coverage for a live statement from the National Institutes of Health. The agency's director is expected to address the spread of the virus into new regions and the latest containment efforts. Health officials have described this as a critical juncture in the national response. We go now to Washington, D.C.
Good evening. I want to speak plainly tonight about the situation our country and the world now faces. Over the past several weeks, we have watched this virus spread across borders, across oceans, and into our communities. The data we've received in the last 24 hours confirms what many of us feared. This outbreak has escalated beyond our projections. What began as a localized event has become a global emergency. The virus is no longer confined to isolated clusters or travel-related cases. We are now seeing sustained transmission in multiple U.S. cities, with case counts doubling every 2 days. Hospitals in several regions are operating at or beyond capacity, and medical staff are working around the clock, often without adequate rest or supplies. I know many of you are frightened, and I know that for weeks you've been told not to be. You were told this was manageable, that the system was ready, that everything was under control. Those statements were made with the best information available at the time, but information changes, and it has changed quickly. The virus we are dealing with is not behaving like the seasonal influenza we know. It spreads faster, lingers longer, and in far too many cases, it kills. We don't yet understand all the mechanisms behind its severity, but we do know that complacency will cost lives. If you take nothing else from what I say tonight, please hear this. It is time to act. Limit your contact with others, cancel unnecessary travel, work from home if your job allows it, avoid large gatherings. If you feel sick, stay home. These are not suggestions. These are the actions that will save lives. We've all seen the footage. Hospitals crowded, emergency tents in parking lots, patients waiting in hallways. Those are not isolated incidents. They are warning signs of what happens when systems designed for normal times are pushed beyond their limits. Our doctors, nurses, and paramedics are doing everything humanly possible. They are heroes, but they cannot do it alone. They need time, and they need you to give it to them. Many of you are asking about vaccines and treatments. The NIH, CDC, and partner laboratories have made extraordinary progress. Candidate vaccines are entering preliminary testing, and several antiviral drugs show promise. But these things take time, and time is what we are running out of. There will not be a single breakthrough that solves this overnight. Containment now depends on human behavior, not technology. I also want to address the rumors, the accusations, the speculation, the fear that this may be something engineered or intentional. There is no credible evidence of that. I understand the instinct to look for someone to blame, but blame will not save your family. Science will, cooperation will. This is not about politics. It is not about countries. It is about humanity facing something larger than any of us. If we divide, we fail. If we work together, we endure. To the mayors, governors, and community leaders listening, do not wait for federal instruction. Take decisive local action now. Close schools if you must. Restrict gatherings. Protect hospitals. Every day matters. Every hour matters. And to the public, I'm not asking for panic. I'm asking for resolve, for compassion, for discipline. You are not powerless. The choices you make tonight will determine what kind of country we wake up to in the weeks ahead. We will get through this, but not if we pretend it isn't happening. Not if we wait for someone else to do the hard things for us. I know you're tired. I know you want to believe that everything will go back to normal. It will, someday, but not yet. Please, take this seriously. Stay home, protect each other, listen to your local health officials, and pray for the men and women on the front lines tonight, fighting to save lives, including yours. We're still learning. We're still adapting, but we will not stop fighting. Not ever. Thank you, and may God watch over us all.
That was the NIH director speaking from Washington, confirming widespread community transmission and urging calm as new federal measures take effect. The White House has just announced that the president will deliver his first national address within the hour. We'll carry that speech live as soon as it begins. Stay with WXRT News for continuing coverage of this developing emergency. We're interrupting all scheduled programming for a live address from the President of the United States. This will be the President's first public statement since the declaration of a national health emergency earlier today. He's expected to outline new federal measures, including restrictions on travel and the activation of the National Guard in several states. We now go live to the White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, I'm speaking to you tonight from the White House to address the situation with what the media is calling the super flu. They love that name, don't they? Sounds like something out of a movie, and honestly, that's how people are treating it. Like one of those disaster films where the scientists save the day at the last minute. Except this isn't a movie, and we're doing a much better job than any of those movies ever showed. I've been in constant contact with our top health experts, and they tell me we're making tremendous progress, incredible progress. We have the best doctors, the best scientists, the smartest people anywhere in the world working on this. Nobody's ever seen a response like this before. Very fast, very strong, very organized. We closed borders early. We mobilized resources, and we're leading the world, absolutely leading. Now, you might have seen some of the news coverage, hospitals showing footage of busy emergency rooms, people in masks, sirens going off. That's television. That's what they do. They focus on the chaos, not the success. What they don't show you are the thousands of hospitals that are perfectly fine, treating people safely, getting them home. You never see those, do you? I watched a movie the other night, Contagion. Maybe you've seen it. Good cast, decent film, but they got everything wrong. People panicking in the streets, total collapse. That's not happening here. People are calm. Shelves are stocked. Stores are open. Life goes on. It's not the end of the world. Not even close. We're not living in an outbreak, folks. We're living in America, and America knows how to handle things. Now, some of us scientists, good people, they like to talk worst-case scenarios. You've heard them. I've heard them. The networks play them over and over because fear sells. But I've looked at the numbers. We've got a few cases, yes, but most are recovering quickly. The mortality rate, that's been exaggerated by the media, totally blown out of proportion. The vast majority of people who get this flu will experience mild symptoms, maybe a fever, a cough, couple days off work, and then they're fine, just fine. And we're working on vaccines. I've been told we're weeks away, weeks from something really incredible. We've got private companies, universities, and federal labs all cooperating. It's like the Apollo program, but for medicine. Everyone's coming together. When America focuses, there's nothing we can't do. I also want to speak to the governors out there. You're doing a great job. Keep it up, but don't overreact. No need to shut down cities. No need to close everything. We're not going to turn the country off for a flu. People still need to work. Kids still need to learn. And the economy, which, by the way, is doing very, very well, needs to keep moving. I want to thank the brave men and women in our hospitals, our first responders, our National Guard. They're heroes, absolutely heroes. We're sending them everything they need, masks, gowns, equipment, and a lot of it's already there. People tell me the shelves are full, the supply lines are strong, and it's working beautifully. To everyone watching at home, I say this: stay calm, wash your hands, take care of your families. We're going to get through this quickly, much faster than the so-called experts are predicting. And when it's over, because it will be over, we're going to look back and say, that was the moment we showed what this country can do. I know people are scared. That's okay. Fear is natural, but panic helps no one. We're not going to live in fear. We're going to live in strength, because that's who we are. Strong people, brave people, the best people in the world. So take a deep breath, turn off the news for a while, and know that everything is under control. It really is. Thank you, and God bless America.
That was President Charles Campion speaking from the White House tonight, addressing what he called, quote, the situation with the flu. In his remarks, the president praised the national response, saying the government's efforts have been, quote, unprecedented, and urged Americans to remain calm, continue working, and avoid panic. Reaction so far has been mixed. Health officials we've spoken with off-camera describe the situation as far more serious than the tone of tonight's address might suggest. Several hospitals in major cities remain at or near capacity. And new reports this evening indicate confirmed cases continuing to rise across multiple states. Some governors have issued their own emergency orders, authorizing National Guard units to assist with medical logistics. In New York, curfews have been imposed in several boroughs after health workers reported being unable to reach hospitals safely through congested streets. Los Angeles County officials say they are opening additional treatment centers to relieve pressure on emergency departments, while smaller rural hospitals across the Midwest are now reporting shortages of critical supplies. The president's address did not directly reference the latest projections released earlier today by the CDC, which estimate that the number of infections could reach into the millions if social distancing measures are not fully implemented. Federal agencies have not commented on those projections, though they continue to urge Americans to, quote, stay calm and take basic precautions. Public reaction online has been immediate, with many praising the president's optimism, while others criticize what they see as a lack of urgency. Hashtags calling for nationwide shutdowns are trending tonight alongside messages of support for medical workers on the front lines. The markets open tomorrow amid growing uncertainty. Analysts are warning of potential disruption to supply chains, transportation, and public services if the outbreak continues to escalate. Several airlines have already announced plans to suspend international routes indefinitely. It's a moment of contrasts. Confident leadership from the podium, but caution and fear from those living the reality of this crisis. As always, we'll continue to bring you updates as they develop and as new information becomes available. This is Billy Ford, WXRT Evening News. Stay safe, stay informed, and take care of each other.
CQ, this is November Kilo 2 Hotel, operating on frequency 72.5. Anyone reading me from across the Atlantic, please respond. Over.
November Kilo 2 Hotel. This is Golf 7 Delta Romeo. Copy you loud and clear. Name's Arthur Bennett, transmitting from the outskirts of Chengdu, Western China. Used to be far enough from the first clusters to feel safe. Not anymore. God, it's good to hear someone still speaking English into a radio.
Arthur, you're the first voice I've heard east of Iceland in days. How's the situation your way? We're getting fragments, containment efforts, power disruptions, limited fatalities. Is that accurate?
No, mate. Not even close. Whatever they're saying over there, it's a lie or it's wishful thinking. The outbreak started north of here, near the industrial corridor. They called it a localized event. It's not localized anymore. It's everywhere. Hospitals are gone. Not overrun, gone. They moved patients into stadiums at first, then into schools. Then they stopped moving them at all.
How bad are we talking, Arthur?
Picture a city the size of London. Now picture it quiet. That's how bad. No traffic, no sirens, just the wind through empty towers. The army's been digging mass graves in the fields outside Birmingham. They don't even use body bags anymore, just tarps.
Jesus, we haven't seen anything like that here yet. Authorities are saying containment's working, that it's under control.
Then they're lying to you too. It spreads faster than anything we've modeled. It's not airborne in the traditional sense. It clings to mist, to condensation. You walk outside and breathe the wrong morning, and that's it. I watched a man collapse in the street 2 days ago. Perfectly healthy. By the time anyone reached him, his skin had gone gray. They tried CPR, but the paramedics were coughing by the time they loaded him in the van.
What about the government there? Are they still broadcasting?
Not really. There's a loop. Some recorded official telling people to stay calm, stay home, stay together. But there's no one left to hear it. The stations are empty. You can tell when it's machines talking to machines.
Are you safe where you are?
Safe's a funny word now. I've sealed the windows. Got a generator running off what's left of the fuel. My wife, she didn't make it. I keep her ring on the desk, next to the mic. I still catch myself turning to tell her things. Old habits.
Arthur, I'm sorry.
Don't be. She was the smart one. She kept saying it's not the sickness that'll kill us, it's the waiting. And she was right. The waiting took everyone. If you're still up and running there, don't wait for orders. Don't wait for confirmation or permission. Stock what you can. Prepare. When it reaches you, and it will come faster than your news cycle can say the word containment.
We'll spread the word. I'll relay this to every operator I can reach. Maybe it'll make a difference.
Maybe. Or maybe it's just good to know someone's still listening.
Copy that. I'm listening, Arthur. You're not alone. This is November Kilo 2 Hotel, signing off. May God help us all.
Good evening. This is WXRT News continuing coverage of the ongoing influenza outbreak. Tonight, long lines are forming across much of the country as federal supply distribution centers struggle to meet growing demand. The National Guard has been deployed in several states to assist with food and fuel delivery, and travel restrictions are now in effect along major interstates. Authorities continue to urge calm, though frustration and uncertainty are rising among those stranded on the nation's highways. For many, this is the third consecutive day without movement. Our correspondent, Miranda Carroll, is on the ground tonight outside Joliet, Illinois, where travelers have been waiting for hours to reach a federal checkpoint. Miranda, what are you seeing out there?
Billy, I'm standing just off Interstate 80 at what used to be an ordinary rest stop. Tonight, it's a waiting zone. Hundreds of vehicles parked bumper to bumper, engines idling, families sitting in their cars wrapped in blankets.
The Highway Patrol set up a temporary distribution post here earlier this morning. The National Guard is handing out bottled water, small food rations, and printed guidance from the Department of Health. The message on every page is the same: stay where you are. There's a quiet tension here. People are still polite, sharing food, checking on one another, but they're scared. One woman told me she hasn't been able to reach her husband in 2 days. Cell networks are overloaded, and several counties are reporting partial blackouts. There's no sign of panic yet, but you can feel it building under the surface. The lines stretch past the horizon. No one knows if they're waiting to move forward or be turned back. Back to you, Billy.
Thank you, Miranda. That's the scene tonight from northern Illinois, where movement along major corridors remains heavily restricted. To help us understand what comes next, we're joined once again by Dr. Sam Daniels, epidemiologist and senior advisor with the National Institutes of Health. Doctor, you've warned before that these travel restrictions were inevitable. How close are we to losing containment?
Billy, the short answer is that containment in the traditional sense is no longer possible. We've moved from an effort to isolate to an effort to slow. The virus is now present in every major metropolitan area and in many rural communities as well. What we're trying to do, what every agency is focused on right now, is maintaining critical infrastructure long enough for the medical system to adapt. These restrictions are about time. Every day that movement slows. We gain hours for hospitals, for supply chains, for research. I know that doesn't make the wait easier, but I want people to remember this is not the end of the fight. It's the part where endurance matters more than speed.
Doctor, we're hearing new reports tonight of hospital overflow, with several facilities in the Midwest now at full capacity. What should people do if they or a family member start showing symptoms?
If symptoms appear, high fever, persistent cough, disorientation, isolate immediately. Do not travel. Do not attempt to reach a hospital unless you've been instructed to do so by local authorities. Home isolation, hydration, and rest remain the best immediate steps. Keep windows open for ventilation, wear a mask if you must interact with others, and limit exposure to shared surfaces. And I want to say this clearly, the majority of cases are still survivable. What's changing is the number, not the nature of the illness. We will learn to treat this, but for now, patience and caution are our best defenses.
Dr. Daniels, before I let you go, we've been receiving questions about rumors of a vaccine. Can you clarify where that effort stands?
Yes. There are multiple research teams working around the clock, both here and internationally. Early trials are promising, but there's no approved vaccine yet. Safety and stability take time, and time is something the virus rarely gives us. But the work continues, and so does the data. I would just remind people, fear is contagious too. The calmer we stay, the better our chances of outlasting this together.
Dr. Sam Daniels. National Institutes of Health, thank you for joining us tonight. As the nation enters its third week of restricted travel, federal authorities say essential services remain active, power grids are stable, food distribution is continuing under military supervision, and emergency networks remain online. Still, the images coming in tonight from across the country tell a different story. Crowded rest stops, shuttered airports, and families waiting by radios for updates that never seem to come. We are expecting a new briefing from the White House within the next 24 hours. With potential changes to federal emergency authority. For now, this is Billy Ford, WXRT News, reminding everyone listening to stay where you are, stay informed, and stay calm. We'll return to regular coverage after this. Good evening. We're coming to you tonight under circumstances unlike any this network has ever faced. The federal government has declared a national state of emergency as the influenza outbreak continues to accelerate across the country. The number of confirmed deaths now exceeds 2 million worldwide, with domestic fatalities climbing rapidly in every major metropolitan area. The Centers for Disease Control reports a mortality rate approaching 99% among severe cases and a progression period of less than 2 weeks from first symptoms to death. The President signed the emergency order earlier today, authorizing the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to assume operational control of public health logistics nationwide. Martial law has not been formally declared, but curfews are in effect across most major cities and all commercial travel has been suspended. The Department of Defense confirms the deployment of National Guard and active duty military to assist with evacuations, hospital operations, and law enforcement. We've received numerous reports of intermittent power outages, internet disruption, and shortages of essential supplies. Gas stations in several states have closed after fuel deliveries were halted, and grocery stores are limiting entry to small groups under police supervision. The Red Cross has issued a nationwide appeal for volunteers and blood donations, calling the situation catastrophic. For those just joining us, the directive from federal authorities is clear. Remain indoors whenever possible, avoid public gatherings, and comply immediately with all evacuation orders. We go now to our field correspondent, Miranda Carroll, who is reporting from an emergency evacuation checkpoint on the north side of the city.
Billy, the scene here is difficult to describe. I'm standing just outside the highway overpass where police and National Guard units have set up a mandatory screening station. Hundreds of vehicles are lined up in both directions, stretching as far as the eye can see. Many have run out of fuel. Some have been abandoned entirely. People are walking along the shoulder, carrying children, pushing suitcases, holding their hands over their faces. Every few minutes, the soldiers wave a group forward. They stop at a checkpoint where infrared scanners are being used to detect fever. Anyone registering above normal temperature is pulled aside for secondary screening. The rest are allowed to pass, but they're being told to keep their windows rolled up and proceed directly to designated shelters. I spoke earlier with Lieutenant Jared Austin of the National Guard, who told me they're trying to process as many people as possible before nightfall. He said the operation is pure triage and that conditions beyond this point deteriorate rapidly. When I asked what that meant, he just looked at me and said, "You'll see soon enough." Behind me, I can hear shouting from the crowd, people begging to be let through, arguing with officers, some just crying. There are rumors that those pulled aside never come back. Officials haven't confirmed that, but I've watched buses leave the area and not return. I don't know where they're going. The air smells of diesel and disinfectant. Every few minutes, a helicopter passes overhead. So low, the wind nearly knocks me over. The soldiers look exhausted. faces pale, eyes red, uniforms streaked with dust. They're following orders, but you can tell they're scared too. A few minutes ago, a mother ran past the barricade with her child. She didn't get far. The soldiers stopped her gently. They didn't hurt her, but you could see she'd reached a breaking point. She kept saying, "He's not sick. Please, he's not sick." They took her aside anyway. Billy, I've been covering disasters for 15 years, but I've never seen anything like this.
Miranda, are you safe to stay where you are?
For now, yes. The Guard has given us clearance to remain near the perimeter, but they've warned that the checkpoint may close entirely once night falls. We've been told to keep our vehicle running in case we need to leave quickly. I'll stay on as long as I can.
Stay safe, Miranda. Thank you. We just received this message from Clark Thompson, Federal Emergency Management Director, who spoke earlier today from Washington. His remarks were released to all national broadcasters this evening.
Effective immediately, all citizens are ordered to comply with local evacuation directives and curfews. Do not attempt to travel without authorization. Do not gather in groups. Remain in your homes unless instructed otherwise by official channels. Transportation corridors are being prioritized for emergency vehicles and supply convoys. Civilian travel is suspended until further notice. National Guard and federal response teams are working with state and local authorities to establish humanitarian zones in each region. These areas will provide food, shelter, and medical assistance for those in need. We understand that communication systems are unstable in many areas. Information will continue to be broadcast through emergency radio frequencies. If you lose access to television or the internet, tune to your local emergency broadcast channel for instructions. We urge everyone to remain calm. The situation is serious but not hopeless. We are deploying every available resource to restore order and provide care. Your cooperation will save lives. Again, comply with all directives immediately.
That was Clark Thompson, Federal Emergency Management Director. His office confirms that evacuation orders are now in effect across all 50 states. As we go off the air tonight, we remind our viewers, stay inside, stay safe, and keep your radios tuned to this frequency for further updates. For WXRT News, I'm Billy Ford. Good night, and may God help us all. This is WXRT News. We interrupt all remaining programming for a live emergency address from the National Institutes of Health. Director Dr. Sam Daniels is expected to provide an update on the current outbreak and new federal guidance. Officials are calling this briefing critical to the nation's response. We go now to Washington.
Good evening. This is Dr. Sam Daniels with the National Institutes of Health. Tonight, I'm not here to reassure you. I'm here to tell you what we know, what we don't, and what it means for every one of us. We are now facing a virus that has shown a fatality rate approaching 99% in confirmed cases. That number is not theoretical. It's not an early model or a projection. It's the reality being documented across hospitals, emergency centers, and field clinics throughout the country. The few who survive the first 96 hours of symptoms rarely survive the next. Treatments that once showed promise have failed. Our antivirals no longer slow replication. Even mechanical support, oxygen ventilation only prolongs the inevitable. We've confirmed that this pathogen moves faster and more efficiently than any respiratory virus we've ever encountered. It is not truly airborne in the classic sense. It spreads through moisture, through the smallest droplets that linger in enclosed air. It clings to clothing, to metal, to glass. It remains viable for days. The environment itself has become a host. At this stage, containment is no longer possible. What we can do, what we must do, is slow its reach as much as humanly possible. That means staying inside. That means reducing contact to only what is absolutely necessary. And yes, that means separation even from the people we love most. I understand what that costs, but I also know the cost of ignoring it. We are coordinating with remaining state and military medical assets to establish what we call isolation corridors. These are not evacuation routes, they are lines of survival. Each is equipped with field medics and communication nodes to maintain what's left of our national infrastructure. If you are in a populated area, you will likely hear one of these emergency frequencies soon. Follow their instructions exactly. Do not attempt to leave your shelter until directed. Many of you have written asking why this happened, why modern medicine couldn't stop it. The truth is our systems were built for control, not surrender. We prepared for what we'd already seen, not what we couldn't imagine. And somewhere in that gap, this thing found us. There will be people who tell you this isn't real, that it's exaggerated, or that a cure is being withheld. I'm telling you as plainly as I can, if there were a cure, you would have it. Every laboratory, every researcher, every doctor left standing has been working without rest or resources. No one is hiding anything. What we face now is not conspiracy, it's consequence. To the families watching this, to the doctors still in their wards, to the people listening through static or in the dark, you are not alone. We see you, we are still here. As long as one voice can speak, one hand can write, one transmitter can send, the work continues. I can't promise that science will save us this time, but I can promise that what we learn from this moment will outlive us. And if humanity endures, and I believe it will, the lesson will be simple. We are not invincible, and we never were. Stay where you are, protect those near you, be kind to one another, and if you pray, pray for peace, not a cure. This is Dr. Sam Daniels. For those still listening, hold on.
You've been listening to Dr. Sam Daniels, Director of the National Institutes of Health. His message tonight was clear. Containment has failed, and survival now depends on isolation. There was no mention of a cure, no timeline for relief, only a plea for patience and compassion. For those still tuning in, stay on this frequency. We'll continue relaying verified updates as long as transmission allows. This is Billy Ford, WXRT News. Stay safe, stay inside, and if you're listening out there, you're not alone.
This is the emergency alert system. This is not a test. The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. A national health emergency has been declared. The outbreak of the influenza virus is no longer contained. Widespread community transmission is occurring in all regions. All citizens are ordered to remain indoors until further notice. Do not travel. Do not attempt to evacuate unless instructed by emergency personnel. Martial law is now in effect. All curfews are mandatory. Failure to comply with federal orders will result in arrest or detainment. Essential services will be maintained under military supervision. Food and medical assistance will be distributed through designated relief centers only. Do not approach military or law enforcement vehicles unless directed to do so. Communications networks are experiencing intermittent failure. In the event of a total outage, remain where you are and await further instructions. Power, water, and utilities may be disrupted. Keep emergency supplies accessible. Repeat, this is not a test. All civilian travel suspended. Remain in your homes. Await instruction from authorized government channels. Do not panic. Do not attempt to leave population centers without permission. For verified information, tune to this frequency every hour on the hour. Messages will be repeated as conditions allow. God bless the United States of America. End of transmission.
They knew. They all knew. And now it's too late. I told you from the beginning this wasn't just a flu. And every single one of them, the officials, the experts, the networks, they laughed. They said I was overreacting, spreading fear, making things worse. And now look around. Tell me who was right. You can hear it out there. The sirens, the gunshots, the hum of helicopters that don't land anywhere anymore. I can see smoke from my window. A week ago, it was one hospital. Then it was a city. Now it's the world. And don't tell me this just got out of hand. That's not how this works. The government knew what this was months before you ever heard the word outbreak. They ran drills for it. They simulated it. They had binders, budgets, emergency stockpiles. And what did they do? They sold the stockpiles. They cut the budgets. They let the hospitals run on fumes and then said, we'll be ready next time. Next time is now. I've seen the documents. I've talked to people who worked inside those labs. They knew this thing didn't start in the marketplace. That's the fairy tale they feed the press. It started in a lab, a research facility. And no, I'm not saying it was a weapon. I'm saying it was an experiment, something they thought they could control, something that got away from them. Do you really think it's coincidence that power grids are failing right as curfews go into effect? That communication lines drop the moment people start organizing online? No, that's not coincidence. That's coordination. You don't manage panic. You silence it. I warned you about continuity of government. I said they were setting up remote command sites months before the first case was announced here. That wasn't preparation. That was retreat. They knew this was coming. They planned for it. They just didn't plan for us. You think the president's really in Washington right now? You think he's giving those speeches live? Look closer. Same background, same lighting, pre-recorded. They're not leading, they're hiding. I've been broadcasting nonstop for 72 hours, running this studio off a backup generator because the power grid went down yesterday. My producer's gone. He said he was going to check on his family and never came back. The phones are dead. The only messages I get now are through the shortwave feed, people begging for help, people screaming for someone to tell them what to do. And here's the truth. There's nothing anyone can do now. The virus is everywhere. You can't fight something that moves faster than thought, that kills before the test results even come back, but you can tell the truth. That's all I've got left. That's all any of us have. They said, don't panic. Well, maybe we should have. Maybe if people had panicked sooner, they'd still be alive. Instead, they waited for permission to be afraid. They waited for the president to smile and tell them it was fine. And when he did, they went back to work. They packed the trains. They filled the stadiums. And they brought it home to their families. And now they're gone. The last numbers I saw, 99% mortality for severe cases. That's not a virus. That's extinction. And you think that just happened? That something this precise, this efficient, this clean just evolved out of nowhere? Come on, wake up. They knew. They let it spread. Maybe to keep control. Maybe because they lost it. Maybe because... You hear that? You hear it cutting in? They're jamming the signal again. You think I'm paranoid? Listen, don't trust...
This is WXRT News. If you're hearing this, we are still broadcasting from our Chicago studio, though for how much longer, I can't say. Several partner stations in the Northeast and Gulf Coast regions have gone dark within the last 24 hours. Power failures continue across the interstate grid, and civilian communications remain unreliable. The federal government is maintaining emergency transmissions, but local updates are limited. Authorities are urging all citizens to shelter in place and avoid unnecessary travel. We go now to Miranda Carroll, who's been traveling between emergency shelters and makeshift field hospitals. Miranda, what can you tell us tonight?
Billy, the scene here is grim but controlled. I'm inside a converted recreation center on the outskirts of St. Louis. The parking lot outside looks like a refugee camp. Tents, generator lights, and military trucks lined up along the fence. Inside, every inch of space has been turned into a triage ward. Families sleep on the floor between rows of patients separated by plastic sheeting. The air smells of antiseptic and sweat. Doctors here are doing their best, but they say the pace of decline is unlike anything they've seen. The illness starts mild, fever, chills, fatigue, and then suddenly the patient can't breathe. By the time they reach the quarantine bay, their oxygen levels have already collapsed. A medic I spoke with said it's like the body just forgets how to live.
I have Dr. Sam Daniels with me remotely from the National Institutes of Health. Doctor, you've been reviewing new data coming in from hospitals around the country. Can you explain what makes this virus different?
Yes. We've studied influenza for more than a century. It mutates quickly but predictably, normally attacking the lungs and upper respiratory system. This strain doesn't follow those rules. What we're seeing now is an immune overreaction. The virus triggers the body's defense systems not to protect it, but to destroy it. Healthy cells go into overdrive, flooding the bloodstream with cytokines, chemical messengers meant to signal infection. But in this case, the signal never stops. The immune system begins attacking every organ it's supposed to defend. That's why patients appear fine one moment and then deteriorate within hours. It's not the virus doing all the damage, it's the body itself, overwhelmed by its own response. We call that a cytokine storm. We've seen it before in rare cases, H5N1, early SARS, but never on this scale and never this contagious.
Doctor, is there any known treatment?
Only supportive care. We can slow the inflammation, maintain oxygen, and hope the immune system stabilizes before complete failure. But we don't have antivirals effective against this strain. The genetic structure is novel, a combination we've never catalogued before. It's as if it learned from every previous outbreak and corrected its weaknesses. We've isolated the sequence, but the mutation rate is staggering. It adapts to temperature, humidity, and even air density. It doesn't just spread, it endures.
Doctor, forgive the bluntness, but what's the realistic outlook now? Are containment efforts still meaningful?
Containment as a strategy has failed, Billy. We're now focused on sustainability, preserving enough infrastructure, medical capacity, and knowledge to rebuild after the first wave. If we can keep systems functional, even in reduced form, there's still hope for recovery. But if communications collapse entirely, we lose coordination. And without coordination, we lose civilization.
Understood, Doctor. Before we lose you, is there anything you want the public to know?
Yes, this is not nature punishing us. It's not a weapon or a curse. It's biology, raw and indifferent. But biology can be understood, and what we understand, we can eventually overcome if anyone out there has the means to record data, temperatures, symptoms, local mortality rates, write it down, preserve it. Science will need those notes when this is over.
Dr. Sam Daniels, thank you for your time and for everything you and your colleagues are still doing. We've just received word that additional power outages are now affecting multiple regional networks. WXRT will remain on air as long as our generator allows. If we go silent, stay tuned to your local emergency frequencies. Miranda, are you still with us?
Yes, Billy, but the lights here just flickered. People are gathering around the loudspeakers. Hold on, the soldiers are saying new instructions are coming down from the White House, something about relocation zones.
Miranda, can you still hear me? We appear to have lost contact with Miranda in St. Louis. We'll attempt to reestablish communication, but reports of network instability are increasing across the region. For those still listening, remain where you are. Do not attempt to evacuate until instructed by local authorities. We expect a new briefing from the White House within the hour. This is Billy Ford, WXRT News. Stay tuned. This is WXRT News in Washington. we interrupt our ongoing coverage for a live statement from the President of the United States. This will be his first public address since the declaration of total infrastructure failure earlier this week. Officials say the President will outline new government continuity measures and address the nation's remaining citizens directly. We go now to the White House Communications Channel.
My fellow Americans, and to everyone around the world still able to hear this message, good evening. Let me begin by saying this. No one in history has faced a challenge like this. Not in any movie, not in any video game, not even in one of those apocalyptic TV shows where everybody looks like they need a shower. We've seen a lot of bad sequels in our time, but this is the real thing, and we're still here. Now, I know what you're hearing. You're hearing numbers, big, scary numbers. They say 99%. They say it like they're proud of it. But I've been talking to people, great people, some of the best, and they tell me we've got survivors. You don't hear about that, do you? You never hear about the survivors. We've got people walking out of hospitals, standing strong, saying they feel great, and we're going to build on that. That's what we do. We're mobilizing what's left of our national infrastructure. Supply lines, fuel depots, communication networks, all of it. We're getting them up and running again, faster than anyone thought possible. The military is out there every day doing incredible work. Some of the toughest, most loyal people on earth. They're helping distribute what we call continuity kits, emergency supplies, protective gear, even entertainment. Yes, that's right. We included a few video games just to remind people what normal used to feel like. Keeps morale up. People love that. Now, I've seen some of these survival movies. I've played a few of the games. The Division, Resident Evil, World War Z, all of them. And let me tell you, they make it look easy. One guy with a baseball bat saving the world, please. It takes leadership, it takes discipline, and it takes a country that doesn't give up. And that's us. People ask me if I'm scared. I tell them, no. I've seen worse crowds at press conferences, but seriously, what I feel is pride. Because even now, with everything falling apart, I still hear stories about people helping each other. A doctor who refused to leave her post. A kid running generators for a hospital. That's who we are. We're not a country that quits. We've lost a lot, but we haven't lost everything. The power might go out, the lights might dim, but America still shines brighter than any place on earth. Always has, always will. Now, I know some of you are tired, angry, maybe even scared. That's okay, but don't give in to despair. Don't believe the doom and gloom people saying it's over. They've been wrong about me before, and they're wrong about this too. We'll find a way. We always do. And one day, maybe not soon, but one day, when this is all over, they'll make a movie about it. Maybe a great one. Until then, keep the lights on if you can. Keep the faith if you can't. Help each other. Believe in your country. Believe in yourselves. This is your president. Still here, still working, still fighting, and we're going to get through this together. God bless you. And God bless what's left of the United States of America.
You've been listening to the President of the United States speaking from an undisclosed secure facility. His remarks tonight emphasized unity, perseverance, and what he called the American spirit of survival. No details were provided on medical progress or containment, and there was no mention of the National Institutes of Health or the Emergency Scientific Council. The President did, however, confirm that continuity operations remain active and that communication will continue as long as possible. It's unclear at this hour how many transmitters are still operating across the continental United States. Our own signal strength has degraded throughout the evening, but will remain on air for as long as power and frequency permit. This is Billy Ford, WXRT News. Stay on this frequency. Stay safe, and if you're still listening, keep your light on.
Brothers and sisters, I know you can hear the sirens tonight. Maybe they're outside your window. Maybe they're somewhere far away, carried on the wind. Wherever you are, I want you to stop for a moment. Stop scrolling. Stop running. Stop trying to understand and listen. The world feels unrecognizable right now. Streets that once rang with laughter are silent. Churches, schools, markets, all empty. Families huddled behind locked doors, praying the sickness passes over their homes. And I can hear it in your voices when you call, when you write, when you weep. You're asking, where is God in all this? He is here. He has not gone anywhere. But the world we built forgot his name, and now the storm reminds us who made the wind. Scripture told us this would come. In Matthew 24, Jesus said, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation. There will be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places." And then he said, all these are the beginning of sorrows. That's what this is. The beginning, the shaking of the foundations. The moment the world discovers it is not indestructible after all. We've built towers that reached into the heavens, trusted in science, in wealth, in our own cleverness, and we thought we could live without the one who breathed life into us. But the Lord will not be mocked. When the world forgets him, he allows the world to remember what helplessness feels like. I don't say this to frighten you. I say it to wake you up. Because now, right now, we are living in the pages of Revelation. Not the fantasy version people talk about in movies, but the real one, where human pride meets divine consequence. It says, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him that sat on it was Death, and hell followed with him." I don't think that horse is coming anymore. I think it's already here. You see, pestilence doesn't always come as punishment. Sometimes it comes as a mirror. It shows us what we are when everything else is stripped away. It reveals how quickly we turn against each other, how fragile our goodness really is. And yet even now there is mercy in the storm, because when the world breaks, faith is born again. If you're listening to my voice tonight, maybe from your home, maybe from your car, maybe from somewhere dark and lonely, remember this: the Lord is not finished with us. Even now, even as the lights go out, his hand is still stretched out. He's saying, come home, repent. Not because you fear him, but because he still loves you. Repent of pride, of indifference, of the arrogance that made us think we could control everything. Fall to your knees and say, Lord, we forgot you, but we remember now. If this is the end, then let it be a beginning of humility, of compassion, of faith reborn in the ashes. When the world is quiet tonight, when all you hear is the hum of the generators and the wind moving through empty streets, close your eyes and remember the words of Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Hold on to that. Hold on to him. Because though the horsemen may ride, and the stars may fall, and the cities may crumble, there will still be a morning after this night, and in that morning, whoever still breathes, whoever still believes, will be the start of something new. Do not be afraid. Be ready. The Lord is with you always. Amen.
Good evening. This is Billy Ford, WXRT News. I don't know how many of you can still hear this broadcast tonight. I've been told most of the national networks are off the air. The grid went down in several regions early this morning. Backup generators here are holding for now, but power is unstable. If you can hear me, you're one of the few. We've received confirmation that the federal government has suspended all civilian communication systems. Only emergency frequencies remain active. The death toll, as of the last official update, has surpassed 30 million worldwide, though that number is already meaningless. The Centers for Disease Control has stopped publishing reports. The National Guard's last communication was at midnight. Hospitals are no longer admitting new patients. Field units are running out of supplies. Cities have emptied. In some places, it's hard to tell the difference between the living and the dead. We were expecting a live report tonight from our field correspondent, Miranda Carroll, at the St. Luke's Medical Complex downtown. We've tried reaching her for the past 6 hours. There's been no response. If you can hear this, Miranda, we're still listening. I don't know how much longer we can keep this up. Most of the newsroom staff evacuated days ago. Some went home to their families. Some never made it home at all. I stayed. Not because I was told to. There's no one left to tell me anything, but because I don't know what else to do. Talking feels like the only thing left that makes sense. We're joined tonight, hopefully, by Dr. Sam Daniels. He's been treating patients at St. Mary's and has agreed to speak with us by phone. Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, though the line's not great. We lost landlines hours ago. This is running through a backup generator in one of the ICU wings. There's only a few of us left here.
Doctor, what's the situation at your facility right now?
It's over, Billy. There's no other way to say it. We ran out of ventilators 2 days ago, out of oxygen last night. We've been trying to keep people comfortable, morphine, blankets, anything we can, but they're dying faster than we can record the names. The nurses stopped going home. They sleep in the hallways now. I stopped counting the bodies after the generators failed in the morgue. The elevators don't work anymore. We're stacking them wherever we can find space.
Is there any sign of immunity? Any patients recovering?
A few, maybe 1 in 1,000, but we don't know why. Some are younger, some older, some healthy, some not. It's like flipping a coin and praying it lands on its edge. We've tried antivirals, steroids, even experimental treatments. Nothing works. The virus burns through them like they're not even there. The people who survive, they look different, worn out, hollow-eyed, like something inside them got left behind.
What about the government? The relief convoys, the shelters, are they still operating?
Maybe somewhere, not here. We haven't seen military vehicles since yesterday morning. The radio chat has gone quiet. It feels like the whole world went silent at once.
Are you safe, Doctor?
Safe? I don't know what that word means anymore. I haven't slept in 2 days. I can still hear them in the halls. Not patients anymore, just people wandering. Some delirious, some praying, some not making sense at all. The nurses asked me if they should go home. I told them yes. They didn't. None of us can leave. If we leave, there's no one left to close their eyes when they go.
Doctor, we're losing you on the line. Are you still?
Tell them. Tell anyone still listening. Stay away from the cities. Go north. Find clean water. Stay with people you trust. And if someone starts coughing, run.
Dr. Daniels, Sam, for those still hearing my voice, I don't know what to say anymore. We used to sign off these broadcasts with hope. We'll have more for you tomorrow. I don't even know if there'll be a tomorrow. The air smells like smoke. The streets are empty, and the station windows glow orange from fires downtown. If anyone can hear this, stay safe, find shelter, take care of each other. That's all that's left now. And to my wife, Sarah, if you're still out there, get to the cabin, the one by the lake. You'll know where the key is. This has been Billy Ford, WXRT News. May God be with you all.
Hey, welcome back to The Breakdown. I guess. Not sure who's still out there listening. The servers went down 3 days ago. The sponsor feed's gone, and my producer hasn't checked in since last week. So if you're hearing this, it's probably because you've still got power, or you found one of the rebroadcast channels people are setting up on shortwave. Either way, hi. I'm still here, for now. I'm broadcasting from my basement. There's a little generator humming in the corner and a single light bulb overhead. It's weird, I used to do this show in a big studio downtown. Walls full of screens, people laughing between takes. Now it's just me, a microphone, and the sound of my own breathing. Feels more like a diary than a podcast. I listened to the president's address from the other night, or whatever that was. You heard it, right? The confidence, the big words, everything's gonna be fine, routine. For a second, I almost wanted to believe him. I really did. It's nice to think somebody's in charge, that there's a plan, that someone knows how to turn this thing around. But when the broadcast ended, I stepped outside, and the street was dark. No cars, no noise, just the sound of wind moving through empty neighborhoods. If that's control, I don't want to see chaos. I used to tell people not to panic. That was my thing. Stay calm, stay rational. Listen to the experts. I said that for weeks. Then the experts stopped answering their phones. The stations went off the air. The network started looping the same pre-recorded press conference over and over until the feed just cut. Now it's just static between stations, like the world forgot how to talk. I keep thinking about Robbie Keogh, the guy I had on the show last month. Smart guy, calm, reasonable, the kind of voice that made you feel better just hearing it. He told me, fear spreads faster than the virus, and I laughed because I thought it was a good line. But he was right. Fear did spread, just not fast enough. I still have a few emails from listeners saved on my laptop. The ones I opened before the power grid went down. One guy said he was stuck in traffic outside Dallas, waiting to get through a checkpoint. Another wrote from Portland, said her father got sick, hospitals were full, they had him on oxygen in the garage. She asked me what she should do. What do you even say to that? Hang in there. Stay hydrated. I never wrote her back. I still think about that email every night. I've been sleeping down here on the floor. Got a couple cans of soup, some water, flashlight batteries. Every time the generator flickers, I think, this is it. This is the moment it all goes quiet. And you know what? I'm not even scared anymore, just tired. The kind of tired that sits in your bones. People used to say, when things get bad, humanity pulls together. Maybe that's true. But from where I'm sitting, it feels like we pulled apart first. Everyone waiting for someone else to fix it. Everyone sure someone else would be first to fall. I think that's what got us. Not the virus, not the government, not even the science. It was the waiting for help, waiting for answers, waiting for tomorrow, and tomorrow never came. I can still hear gunfire some nights. Faint, far away, like fireworks that never end. Sometimes dogs barking, sometimes nothing at all. You don't realize how loud silence can be until the whole world stops talking. If you're listening to this, wherever you are, you're not alone. I mean that. Somebody's still here, still breathing, still talking into a microphone because they can't stand the thought of not being heard. I don't know how long the generator will last. Maybe another hour. Maybe another night. But I'll keep recording until it dies. That's all any of us can do now. Keep talking. Keep the lights on a little longer. This is Jimbo Scott, broadcasting from somewhere under what used to be Los Angeles. Stay alive. Stay human. And if you can, keep talking. Somebody out there might still be listening.
I don't even know what day it is anymore. The clock stopped yesterday, or maybe the day before. Doesn't matter. Time doesn't mean anything now. The sun comes up, the sun goes down, and the world just keeps dying in between. If you can still hear this, if anyone out there still got power, this is Stu Redman, the Real Truth Hour. Don't bother looking for the website. It's gone. The servers are down. The phones are dead. And the only thing left working in this whole setup is a single radio transmitter running off a car battery and a prayer. I used to think if I just kept talking long enough, I could make people see that truth was like light, shine enough of it, and darkness doesn't stand a chance. But the darkness outlasted me, outlasted everyone. They shut the cities down weeks ago, then the roads, then the air, and then even the silence started to sound wrong. I've been getting fragments of transmissions on shortwave, broken voices, code words, military chatter. One said continuity achieved, another said fall back to Denver, and then nothing. Always nothing. I used to say they knew, and they did. But the truth is, I don't think anyone knows anything anymore. I used to think the government caused this, that it leaked from some lab, that it was a plan to reset the world. But plans require people, and people are gone. Maybe it wasn't control after all. Maybe it was just arrogance, the belief that we were smarter than biology, stronger than creation. Turns out we weren't. I walked outside today. First time in 2 days. The air smells like metal and smoke. There was a dog lying in the street. I thought it was dead. Then it opened its eyes and looked at me. Didn't move, just watched. I didn't move either. Two living things pretending not to exist. That's what survival looks like now. I keep thinking about all the people who used to write in. Truck drivers, nurses, soldiers, people who believed I had answers. I didn't. I never did. I just had a microphone and a voice. That was enough back when the world still listened. Now it feels like I'm talking through water. Every word drifts away before it lands anywhere. Maybe someone will find this tape someday. Maybe they'll laugh. Listen to this guy. They'll say, he thought the world was ended. And maybe they'll be right. Maybe the world didn't end. Maybe it just started over without us. I used to believe everything was connected. Secret agencies, hidden experiments, shadow governments. But what if the real conspiracy was simpler? What if nobody was in charge? What if the truth was chaos all along and we spent our whole lives trying to pretend it wasn't? The radio keeps cutting out, battery's low. If this is the last time you hear my voice, remember something for me. The truth wasn't in the documents, it wasn't in the leaks or the data or the whispers. The truth was always right in front of us. We just didn't like what it said. They told us to stay home. We stayed. They told us not to look. We didn't. They told us not to think, and we called it comfort. If you're still listening, hold on to something, anything. Keep the lights on if you can. Talk to the walls if you have to. Don't let the silence win. This is Stu Redmond, The Real Truth Hour, signing off.
This is an emergency alert system message issued by the United States Department of Homeland Security, in coordination with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. A national state of emergency has been declared. All citizens are instructed to remain indoors and avoid unnecessary travel. Local authorities are activating curfew orders effective immediately. Essential services, including medical, power, and communication networks, are operating on limited capacity. If you are in need of assistance, contact your designated regional emergency channel. Do not approach hospitals unless directed. Report all symptoms of high fever, bleeding, or disorientation to local response units. Repeat, remain indoors, shelter with immediate family or registered occupants, and await further instructions. This message will repeat every 15 minutes until superseded by new information. Stand by for additional updates. End of transmission.
This is Hugo Reyes, reporting for the Global News Network, broadcasting tonight from what remains of our international bureau in Geneva. Most of our correspondents are gone, either silent, displaced, or ill. The satellite network is unstable, but for now the signal holds. The virus has now been confirmed on every continent. No region has been spared. Transmission is universal across climate, language and border. The maps once covered in red zones have become entirely red. Governments have stopped releasing official numbers. The data simply outpaced the capacity to measure. It began, as far as we know, in central China, the first hospitals reporting unusual pneumonia cases nearly 4 months ago. At the time, the world watched cautiously, remembering the lessons of COVID, promising we would never again be caught unprepared. But we were. The first infections moved faster than our assumptions. International flights continued, trade continued, and by the time the alarm was sounded, the virus was already everywhere. What makes it so devastating is not just its lethality, but its patience. Once infected, a person may carry and spread the virus for 7 to 14 days without showing a single symptom. During that time, they go to work, visit family, comfort friends, all while releasing millions of viral particles into the air around them. By the time the fever starts, by the time anyone realises, an entire community is already infected. And then comes the second phase, a slow, inexorable decline. The first week brings exhaustion, confusion, nosebleeds that won't stop. The second week brings organ failure, then silence. From the onset of symptoms to death, it takes between 7 and 14 days. No known treatments have succeeded. No one has recovered. Hospitals have become mausoleums. In Paris, patients lie in the corridors, tended by volunteers wearing improvised protection. In Cairo, the power grid collapsed days ago. In Brazil, entire neighbourhoods have sealed themselves off with barricades and prayer. The Vatican broadcast its final mass this morning. In Tokyo, the streets are empty except for the wind and the hum of vending machines still running on backup power. Here in Switzerland, the Alps look untouched. Snow falls as it always has, indifferent, eternal. But even here the hospitals are full. Outside the air smells of antiseptic and wood smoke. Inside the doctors whisper instead of speak, as if language itself might spread the disease. Scientists tell us the virus is a masterpiece of adaptation. It doesn't burn hot and fast like Ebola, nor fade quickly like typical influenza. It lingers, it endures, it uses our kindness as its pathway. We embrace, we comfort, we hold one another, and that's how it wins. It turns compassion into transmission. There are still fragments of communication. Radio operators from Norway, Argentina, Kenya and the Philippines report scattered survivors. Power stations flicker on and off like pulse signals. Satellites drift without correction. You can almost see civilization breathing its last shallow breaths, then waiting and hoping. The last confirmed government broadcast came from Canada 3 nights ago. A recorded statement urging listeners to remain calm and shelter in place. The voice repeated until the generator failed. Since then, nothing. We've also learned something about the virus's cruelty. It gives false hope. There are long hours when victims feel better. Appetite returns, fever breaks, pulse steadies, and then suddenly they're gone. Doctors call it the remission lie. For the infected, it's the calm before the fall. As of this hour, our Geneva team is down to 4. We've lost power twice tonight. The backup battery is fading. I don't know how many more broadcasts we can make, but if you're hearing this, it means someone somewhere is still listening. That's all a broadcast really is, a voice hoping for an echo. Stay where you are, avoid contact, breathe carefully, speak softly. This is Hugo Reyes for the Global News Network. Geneva signing off.
This is an emergency alert system message issued by the United States Department of Homeland Security. Nationwide communication is unstable. Regional command centers report widespread power loss and service disruption. Remain in your current shelter location and do not attempt evacuation. Infection control zones are no longer operational. Citizens are advised to limit air exchange, close windows, and seal ventilation if possible. Avoid contact with all outside individuals, regardless of apparent health. If symptoms appear, fever, confusion, or bleeding, isolate immediately. There is no approved cure or treatment. Repeat, remain sheltered, do not travel, and maintain radio contact on this frequency. This message will repeat until the national broadcast network is restored. Please stand by. End of message.
This is Billy Ford. I'm speaking tonight from what used to be Gate 12 in Terminal B of the regional airport. The glass still says departures, but no one's leaving anymore. Only one plane sits out there now, a narrow-body jet that landed 2 days ago, its nose turned toward the empty runway like it's waiting for permission that will never come. The wings are gray with dust. The air smells like metal and rain. I don't know if this still qualifies as a broadcast. The station downtown is gone. The tower fell after the generators failed. I brought what equipment I could salvage, a portable transmitter, a battery pack, and one microphone. There are 11 of us here, airport staff, a pilot, 2 paramedics, and a family that made it in from the freeway before the checkpoints closed. We take turns keeping the generator alive, rationing fuel 1 gallon at a time. Every hour the lights flicker, and every time they do, someone looks at the plane. We thought the airport would be safe. Wide open spaces, medical supplies, food stored for flights that never left. For a while it was. Then, just after sundown, that plane came in from the east. No manifest, no crew call, just a voice on emergency frequency begging to land. They said half their passengers were sick and couldn't breathe. The tower told them to stay airborne, but they were already losing power. So we cleared a strip with truck headlights and waved them in. When the wheels touched down, no one came out. The engine spooled down and never started again. We approached at dawn, and through the cabin windows we could see people still strapped in their seats, not moving. A few were breathing, barely. The pilot refused to open the door, sealed the inside handle with tape. He said it was to keep the sickness contained. We haven't gone back since. We draped plastic over the jetway and sealed it with duct tape. The paramedics say it's mercy, the others call it quarantine. Every so often we hear a knock from inside, weak, like someone trying not to wake the rest. The sound always stops before anyone decides what to do. The radio says there are other pockets like ours, a hospital in Denver still transmitting, a Coast Guard base in Maine, a mountain community somewhere in the Rockies with hydroelectric power. I don't know if any of it's real. The signals fade in and out like dreams. People keep asking how this happened so fast. How something smaller than a grain of sand could bring down a civilization that survived COVID. Maybe that's the problem. We survived it. We treated it like the final chapter, like once we'd beaten one pandemic, the book was closed forever. But biology doesn't read our endings. It just writes new ones. We managed to reach one familiar voice earlier tonight. Dr. Tom Cullen, former National Virology Research Center. He's on a satellite phone powered by a hand crank, and we have him on the line now. Doctor, are you still there?
Barely, Billy. The connection's unstable, but I can hear you.
Can you tell us anything new about this virus? Anything people should know if there are still people out there listening?
We've learned a few things. It's airborne, yes, but not in the traditional sense. The viral particles cling to moisture, to fog, to condensation. That's why coastal areas went first. Once it saturates the air, it lingers, hours, sometimes days. The mortality rate depends on exposure length. The longer you breathe it, the less chance you have. We used to think it burned out the lungs. It's worse than that. It rewrites immune response, turns the body against itself. People don't drown in fluid. They drown in their own cells collapsing.
Is there any sign of immunity? Any survivors with resistance?
A handful. We've been collecting blood samples where we can. There's a pattern emerging, not full immunity, more like a delay. Their bodies fight longer before shutting down. But they're rare. 1 in 10,000, maybe less.
What about you, Doctor? Where are you now?
Somewhere outside Denver, underground. We still have partial power. There were 6 of us when this started. 2 left to look for supplies, haven't come back. It's just me and 1 nurse now. We talk less each day. There's nothing new to say. If anyone's listening, don't wait for rescue. There's no rescue. Survive the day, then the next. That's all there is.
Understood. Doctor, thank you for holding on.
Billy, one more thing. The virus isn't mutating randomly anymore. It's stabilizing. That means it's found equilibrium. What viruses do when they've infected everything they can. When that happens, what's left either adapts or disappears.
Doctor? Dr. Cullen? He's gone. I don't know who's still out there. I don't know if this reaches anyone beyond these walls. But if it does, know this. There are still people alive in Terminal B. We're still here. We have food for maybe a week, fuel for 3 days, and hope that lasts about an hour at a time. If anyone hears us, Northside Airport, main terminal, look for the beacon light in the control tower. We'll leave it on until the generator dies. This is Billy Ford signing off from Terminal B. Stay alive. This is Billy Ford, broadcasting from Terminal B. I don't think anyone can hear this anymore. The antenna's half collapsed. The batteries are almost gone. The generator died yesterday morning, and the beacon light in the control tower went dark just after sundown. I told myself I'd keep talking until the power failed, but I can still hear the wind through the vents, and it sounds too much like breathing. Maybe that's why I'm still here. There were 11 of us in the terminal. Now there are 3. One of the paramedics left 2 nights ago said he heard a voice on shortwave calling from the North Ridge. He took a flashlight, a blanket, and half the water. We haven't seen him since. The others, I don't know. Some stopped waking up. Some just walked out onto the runway and kept going. I used to think the silence meant safety, that if the world was quiet, it meant the worst was over. But this isn't peace, it's just absence, the sound of a planet trying to remember how to sleep. I keep thinking about Miranda, about the day she called in from the hospital parking lot. You could hear the sirens behind her. She tried to sound calm, but her voice cracked halfway through. I never told her how brave she was. I should have. If she's out there somewhere, if she's still alive, I hope she knows. And I think about my wife, Sarah. She was supposed to make it to the cabin when the roads were still open. We had a plan: meet by the river, follow the back trail north. I waited as long as I could. Maybe she found another way. I like to think she did. Sometimes I catch myself talking to her when the signal fades. Just little things, what the sky looks like, how the pine trees sound when the wind hits them. I hope wherever she ended up, she still gets to hear that sound. There's a rhythm to this disaster, denial, collapse, silence. It's like a broadcast that fades in and out. The trick is not to mistake the quiet for hope. Sometimes the quiet just means there's no one left to speak. There's a quote I wrote down years ago from a journalist during the old wars. When everything is lost, the only duty left is to bear witness. I used to think that meant truth-telling, holding power accountable. Now I think it means something simpler, staying human, even when there's no one left to see you do it. If anyone hears this, there's food in the terminal, canned goods in the storage room behind security, water in the restrooms, still clean, for now. Take what you need, leave something behind if you can, even if it's just a note. I keep picturing the world as it was before this. Traffic lights changing for no one. Coffee cups left half full on office desks. Radios playing to empty kitchens. Maybe that's how history ends. Not with noise, but with 1,000 small things still waiting to be used. The generator's flickering. I can see the light pulsing on the wall. It looks like a heartbeat slowing down. When it stops, I guess that's it. The final sign-off. So, to whoever hears this someday, whoever finds what's left of this frequency, know that we tried. We really did. We reported the facts. We asked the questions. We told the truth as long as the airwaves let us. And when the truth stopped mattering, we kept talking anyway. Because silence. Silence was the only thing worse than fear. This is Billy Ford. Last transmission, Terminal B. Good night.
This is an emergency alert system message issued by remaining national continuity stations. All previous directives remain in effect. Shelter where you are. Do not seek outside contact. If you can hear this transmission, you are the continuity. Preserve information, record names, maintain signal. There will be no further updates. Remain calm, remain home, remain. End of message.
Brothers and sisters, if this message reaches you, know that the light of Christ still burns. Maybe not in every house, maybe not in every heart, but it burns still. I can see it flickering in the last of the candles here on the altar, small and trembling, yet alive. The world has gone dark. The streets outside are silent, the air heavy and cold, but the Gospel of John says, "The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." That means no matter how thick the night becomes, no matter how far the storm spreads, darkness cannot claim what belongs to God. I know many of you are afraid. You've lost your families, your friends, your homes. You've prayed for healing that never came, for mercy that seemed too late, and now the silence feels like abandonment. But let me tell you, Jesus Christ has not abandoned his people. He never has. He said in Matthew 28:20, "Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world." We are at that end now, the end of all we built and all we understood, but not the end of him. The kingdom of God is not bound by walls or governments. It lives wherever faith still draws breath. And even now, if you whisper his name, heaven hears you. When I was a boy, my grandmother used to tell me that a single candle could drive out a room full of darkness. I didn't understand it then, but tonight I do. The light isn't in the wax or the flame, it's in what it represents. Jesus said in John 8:12, "I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life." That's what this candle is. That's what your faith is, the light of life. So I tell you now, do not give up. Do not let despair write the final chapter. Open your Bible, speak his name. If you have no strength to pray, whisper the Lord's Prayer. He will finish it for you. If you are dying, die with his name upon your lips, and you will never truly die. For those still living, remember the words of Psalm 27:1, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" That is not poetry. That is truth. Fear cannot stand in the presence of Christ. We were a proud people, and pride has a way of deafening us. We trusted our machines more than our Maker, our wisdom more than his word. And yet, even as the world fell apart, he gave us mercy. He gave us time to love, to forgive, to choose compassion over comfort. The Lord's grace was in every act of kindness we gave each other. Now the world rests, and perhaps that's what this is, not punishment, but rest. The book of Revelation says, "And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain." It will come. Maybe not for us, but it will come. For every soul that ever called on the name of Jesus Christ, the light will rise again. If you're hearing this, light a candle. Not because you believe it will save you, but because it reminds heaven that faith still exists on this earth. Let that small flame stand as testimony. The Word became flesh, and the darkness never overcame it. I'm going to end this message with a prayer. If you can, pray it with me. Father in heaven, we come before you in the final hour. We thank you for the breath still in our lungs, for the love still in our hearts, for the mercy you showed even when we did not deserve it. Forgive us, Lord, for our pride and our blindness. Receive the souls of the fallen into your peace. Give strength to those who remain and light their way through the shadows. Let your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ, guide us home, whether that home is here or in your eternal kingdom. Amen. And to whoever hears this, remember the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. This is Pastor Tyler Leander signing off. The candles are still burning, Jesus is still Lord, and the light has not gone out.
This is Terminal B. If anyone can hear this, the transmitter's still working. Power's low, but the signal's clean. We lost our last connection 2 nights ago. If you're out there, please respond.
Copy that, Terminal B. You're faint, but you're there. This is November Kilo 2 Hotel, operating from high ground in the Rockies. Name's David. Been trying to raise anyone for weeks. Thought I was talking to ghosts.
You're not. This is Leah Daniels. I found this transmitter here at the old regional airport, the same one where that reporter Billy Ford made his last broadcast. I think he worked out of this very gate. The mic still had his initials scratched into the casing. I was 14 when the pandemic started. 5 years later, I guess I'm what's left of his newsroom. It's mostly held together with duct tape and generator fumes. How many of you are out there?
2. Me and a kid. Found her near the river about a month ago. Name's Ellie. She doesn't say much, but she listens to the static like it's music. What about you?
Just me now. The others didn't make it. I've been keeping the signal going, hoping somebody would answer. Guess that's you.
Guess so. It's strange hearing another voice. For a while I thought maybe the airwaves themselves had died, like the silence was something living that ate the sound.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget to talk out loud, even to myself. It's like your brain gets used to quiet, starts whispering instead of speaking.
You got power over there?
For now, small generator. Enough for the transmitter and a single light. I keep it on mostly for company. The dark feels heavier when it's complete.
I know what you mean. We've got candles, wood stove, and a hand crank. Makes me feel like I'm living in a history book.
Any sign of other settlements?
Heard something a few days ago. Might have been the Coast Guard or just interference. Short burst on a federal band. Something about continuity of operations. Then it cut out. Nothing since.
I picked up an old relay from the Midwest yesterday. Sounded like a woman reading coordinates. Said they'd restarted a wind farm and were trading grain for fuel. That's the first organized thing I've heard in months. Outside, the grass is growing through the cracks in the tarmac. The air smells clean again. I don't know if that means recovery, but it feels like the world's still trying.
Heard that once from a medic. He said nature doesn't quit, just waits for us to stop getting in the way. Maybe that's all this is.
Maybe. Close. My dad was an engineer. When he got sick, he taught me how to keep the generator alive. I didn't think I'd ever need it, but here we are. Guess that makes me the engineer now. He would have been proud of that.
He would. When it went quiet, that's when it felt real. I've been writing down frequencies, keeping track of what I hear. There's more noise at night. Might just be the ionosphere, or maybe more of us talk when it's dark. It was good talking with you, Leah. Most of what I hear is ghosts in the static. Old broadcasts looping from empty stations. Once I heard a sermon repeating for an hour, then it just stopped.
Yeah, that one's real. Pastor Tyler Leander. I found a copy of it in the archive drive. He said the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. I've been keeping that one line in rotation. Feels like a promise.
Maybe that's all a promise is now. One line that keeps echoing.
David, if your signal drops, try the frequency I'm using now. I'll keep it open at sunset every night.
Copy that. Same for me. High band, same call sign. Let's make some noise for the quiet world.
Deal. Good night, David. Keep the light on.
Good night, Leah. Keep talking.
If anyone can hear me, this is a transmission from what's left of an old relay tower in Terminal B of Regional Airport. The antenna's bent, but I've patched a signal through an old generator I found in the terminal. The name on the mic says Billy Ford. I think this was his. There's a note taped to the desk. It says, "Keep talking." Just that, 2 words. I think I understand why. The terminal's empty now. The glass doors are broken. The air smells like rust and fuel. I found food in the vending machines. Melted chocolate. Old cans of cola, still sweet somehow. Outside, the runways are covered in frost. I can see tire marks frozen into the ice. The planes are still lined up, waiting for a clearance that will never come. There were 6 of us when we came here. 3 left for the mountains. 2 didn't make it through the winter. I buried them near the fence line, used my hands when the shovel froze. The ground was hard, but it felt right to try. You should still bury the dead. It keeps you human. The radio picks up things sometimes, pieces of the old world still echoing. Weather updates from nowhere, emergency tones stuck on repeat, and once a preacher's voice. I think it was him, the same one from the recordings we found at the church. His words were broken by static, but I caught one line clear as anything. The light shines in the darkness. I've been keeping a journal. Paper, pencil, just in case batteries don't last. I write down what I see. Animals coming back, trees pushing through the pavement, clouds hanging low over the water. It's like the earth's exhaling again. I think it missed being quiet. Sometimes I find footprints. Not many, but enough to know we're not the last. Once I saw smoke on the horizon. Thin, grey, steady. I tried to follow it, but the roads are broken, and the air turns heavy in the valleys. I came back here instead. Maybe I wasn't meant to find them. Maybe they'll find me. I don't know much about what happened. I was 14 when it started. My mother worked in a clinic. My father fixed radios. They both got sick. I didn't. I still don't know why. Sometimes I wonder if I'm immune, or just lucky. Maybe there's no difference anymore. I found an old Bible in the airport chapel. Pages torn, half burned. There's a verse underlined in red. Be still and know that I am God. I've been thinking about that one. The whole world's still now. Maybe that's what it means. Maybe we were too loud for too long. The nights here are beautiful. No lights anywhere. You can see the Milky Way clear across the sky. It looks like something new. Not a sky above a broken world, but a world about to begin again. I don't know if there will be another broadcast after this. I'll keep the generator running as long as I can. I'll keep talking. Maybe someone somewhere will hear. If you're alive, if you hear this, you're not alone. I don't have names for everyone who came before, but I know their voices. The anchor, the doctor, the preacher, the man who wouldn't stop shouting about the truth. They all kept talking until they couldn't. I'm going to do the same. The Bible says in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid." If there's anyone left, remember that. You are the light now. Keep it burning. This is, I guess it doesn't matter who I am. I'm just another voice trying to keep the silence from winning. If you're out there, if you can hear this, keep talking. Don't stop. That's how we start again.
Hey, it's been a long time. 5 years, I think. A few of you might even remember this voice. Used to go by The Breakdown with Jimbo Scott. Used to be the guy who thought he could explain the end of the world with a microphone and a little bravado. Turns out the world didn't need explaining. It needed surviving. I found this old recorder in a supply cache near what used to be Denver. There was dust on it, thick as a memory, but it still works. Funny how the simplest things outlast everything else. Batteries, tape, words. The network's real now. Not a theory, not a rumor. Actual people talking across the airwaves again. Farmers, teachers, ex-soldiers, scientists, even a few kids reading weather reports like it's the evening news. You can tell they don't remember the world before, and maybe that's for the best. I got word from Terminal B last night. Leah Daniels, yeah, that kid with the voice that carried across the static, she's running the broadcast now. Sounds steadier than any anchor I ever met. I told her once that fear spreads faster than truth. Guess she decided to spread truth anyway. Good for her. I don't talk as loud as I used to. There's no audience anymore. Not the way there was. Just a handful of people scattered across the map, holding conversations that drift like smoke. But you know what? That's enough. When everything fell apart, we thought the noise would save us. We filled every channel with panic, outrage, speculation. Everyone wanted to be heard, but nobody wanted to listen. And when the power went out, so did the noise. That was the first real silence I'd ever heard. I used to hate it. Now I think it's holy. I've been walking again, following rivers, sleeping under bridges, trading canned food for stories. I keep running into people who remember things differently. Some say the sickness came from us. Others say it was a test from God. I don't know. Maybe it was both. Maybe we needed to lose the world to learn how to deserve it. The air's cleaner now. The stars are brighter. You can see the Milky Way clear as a road map. There's no hum of engines, no screens glowing in the dark. Just the wind, and sometimes the faint crackle of a radio signal. It's strange. I used to think silence meant the end. Now it sounds like grace. I don't know who's listening to this, or if anyone will ever hear it, but I want to leave something behind. Not data, not headlines, just a voice saying we made it through. Not all of us, but enough. We used to think civilization was buildings and laws and money. It's not. Civilization is the moment you hear another voice and decide to answer. That's it. Everything else is just decoration. So if you're out there, wherever there is, speak up. Tell someone what you saw, what you remember, what you still believe in. Don't let silence be the last storyteller. So here's my final sign-off. If the next voice after mine sounds younger, steadier, kinder, good, that's how it's supposed to be. This is Jimbo Scott, former host of The Breakdown, current member of whatever comes next. Keep talking, keep building, keep the light burning. Good night, and God bless whoever's still awake out there.
This is Dr. Sam Daniels, formerly of the National Institutes of Health. The date doesn't matter anymore. Time has become something that exists only for those who still expect tomorrow. I don't. I've contracted the virus. It started 3 days ago, fever, lightheadedness, the strange sense that gravity itself had become heavier. I probably have a week left, maybe less. That's enough time to finish this recording, and that's all that matters now. I spent most of my life studying pathogens. I used to think of them as enemies, invaders. But viruses aren't evil. They're perfect. They have no greed, no malice, no desire for conquest. They exist to replicate, nothing more, nothing less. And in that simplicity lies their genius. We used to tell ourselves that progress made us untouchable. Vaccines, antibiotics, sterile rooms. We believed we'd written a new contract with nature, one that put us above consequence. But nature never signed that contract. All it took was one strand of RNA, a sequence smaller than a whisper, to remind us who's in charge. One microscopic script capable of rewriting the story of the species that wrote its own myths about dominion. I've seen what it does under the microscope. The first cells flare like signal fires, the immune system rushing in, trying to smother the spark. But the fire spreads anyway. It's elegant in a horrifying way, the body defending itself so violently that it burns itself alive. When I first saw that reaction, I didn't think of medicine. I thought of history, of nations collapsing from the weight of their own defenses, of empires crumbling not from invasion, but from exhaustion. That's what this virus is, the smallest empire, conquering by reflection. It makes us destroy ourselves. I used to think humanity would end in fire, a war, a weapon, something loud enough to make the universe take notice. Instead, it ended with a cough, a fever, and a silence too deep for sirens. No explosions, no victories, just the sound of air leaving the lungs of a species that thought it had outgrown death. But even now, in the dim light of what's left, I don't feel anger, I feel awe. A virus isn't alive in the way we understand life. It has no heartbeat, no breath, no consciousness, yet it moves through the world like poetry written in code, tiny, relentless, and eternal. When I was a student, a professor told me that life is a negotiation between order and chaos. The human body is order, pretending to last forever, and the virus is chaos, reminding it that forever is a myth. We call it disease, but it's really balance, the universe resetting its terms. There's a strange comfort in that. We were never promised permanence. We were promised participation. For a while we got to witness the miracle: fire, language, art, music, kindness. Now something smaller gets its turn. If anyone finds this recording, know this: humanity wasn't defeated. It simply ran out of time. But time isn't an ending, it's a relay. Maybe what comes next will be better, slower, quieter, more grateful for what breath means. I'm not afraid of dying. I've seen death under a microscope. It's not an event, it's a conversation. One cell whispers to the next, and the body listens. And when the last cell stops speaking, something greater than us carries the silence forward. If I have one regret, it's that we forgot how to listen to that silence while we were still alive. We filled every corner of the earth with noise until the quiet had to take the world back just to be heard again. I'm leaving this recorder on the desk beside my microscope. The sample slides are still under the lens, cells frozen mid-division, a little fragment of life still trying to divide in the dark. It's beautiful. If you're hearing this, remember, the smallest things have the greatest power: a spark, a word, a single line of code, or a virus. This is Dr. Sam Daniels, signing off. Whatever happens next, may it find us wiser than before.